Okay. Hey guys. How are you guys doing? Okay. So let me do like a quick life update. So, to be honest, I haven't been as busy as it seems, but I'm someone who I'm someone who like I need to live in the moment type of thing. So that's what I've been doing. But, I've been here, I've been watching the streams. Um YouTube's just very interesting because I feel like okay, I'll just speak on myself, right? I've been on YouTube for I've been on YouTube since May 2020, right? So it's getting to May 2023. So I honestly, I'm the type of person that I need to look at my life and just see what's going on. I don't like to skate by. I need to like I have goals that I set the beginning of the year that I personally have not completed yet, but it's fine because still have time left in the year. But that's stuff that I just take seriously. Like I don't like to play with my time because you guys know how I feel about the whole, oh, the elders did nothing for us, the elders did nothing for us. I don't want to turn around and be 40, not 40 yet, but I'm just giving an example. I don't want to turn around and be 40 and like I did nothing for the next generation, you know what I mean? So I'm trying to do stuff, you know, like yeah, literally. I'm just trying to do things, and yeah, that's pretty much it. But with all of that said, welcome everybody. Long time no see. I'll upload my latest live stream. But the topic for today is, are Africans in the West, are they even Africans anymore? I'll give you guys an example. So, those Africans, right, that have been here for like 30 years or 20 years, like, are they even African anymore? I don't think they are. I think that I just think that they're Europeans wherever they live, mixed with some African culture. But I've noticed that if Africans are over here and they don't keep up with African culture, it doesn't matter because they're not there anymore. So it's like, I don't think a lot of people like to have that conversation, but are they actually Africans? Ethnically, of course, they're African, but culturally, are they that African? Because, I mean, let's say you work in an institution where no one speaks your language, right? Let's say that you don't even know your language of no fault of your own, but you literally don't know your language. Like, how African are you actually? Like how can you live here for, let's say, 20, 30 years and still be like, I'm African, I'm the exact same as an African who lives in Africa? It's like, no, you're not. You're not. Like, I look at some Africans over here, and to me, they're only Africans in their name, you know? By their name, by their face, you could tell that they're African, but there really isn't anything that really shows that they're African other than that. Like, you got Africans that for whatever reason, they're afraid or ashamed of showing people their culture. I don't know what that's all about, but they come here and then they completely reject their whole Africanness, their whole African way of being. And I'm like, okay, so the Africans back home are supposed to see you as the exact same as them when you even feel ashamed to show who you are. Like, that's literally, it's weird to me. Like, it's so weird to me. Like, you're so African You're so African that you have an African full name and you tell people to shorten it to a Western name. And then the excuse they'll give is, oh, yeah, no, I want people to be able to pronounce my name. And I'm like, really? Like, that's the core being of you being African. But you're like, oh, no, for convenience purposes. Like, listen, I used to work with a lot of I used to work with a lot of Russians. I used to work with a lot of people from Ukraine, Eastern Europeans. Could not pronounce half of their names. But would they sit here and change their names because they care that other people wouldn't be able to pronounce them? No, they didn't do that. So to me, it's interesting why Africans do that. And please, I don't want to hear the Chinese do it too. I don't want to hear that. I'm asking why you do that. You know what I mean? Like, are you serious? Your name is like 13 letters. There's nothing wrong with that. But you're here changing it to Jeff. Oh, because, that's the names that people have here. It's like one of the basic elements of you is being altered for someone else. And that's been normalized. Like, oh, that's just what you have to do. Like, says who? Who says you have to do that? But then you're gonna turn around and be like, oh yeah, I'm a proud African, but you don't even go by your name. Like, I'm listen, that to me, I've never okay, like I'll just be honest with you, like I never really understood that. Now I get it if your parents named you like let's say a Christian name or I get that. I won't fault you so much for it. But I mean especially the Africans that have their traditional names and they actually just change them. Now, some of them say, "Oh, it's for work purposes so that when I apply to a job, they'll call me back." But I'm like, "But you still have to go to an interview and they'll know that you're they'll know that you're not white." So it's like, ugh, you know what? Like all these excuses that I've been hearing my whole life is like, let's really get to the core of this. And shout out to everybody who's here, guys. Thanks for being here. Um, there are gonna be Africans, right, that are gonna come and be like, "How dare you say this? You're so wrong." And I'm just like, I'm in the same position as you. Like, I'm speaking about myself as well. So if I can say this and not be offended, why are you offended? Why? You know what I mean? It's like, let's just have that conversation. Because I think a lot of Africans want to hide, like they want to be like, I'm so African, I'm so this, I'm so that. Ask a lot of these Africans, right? Who say, especially the ones who say that they love Africa, the ones that tell you, I'm not going back there, I don't care about that place. You already know where they're coming from. I actually like that because they're being honest with you. But the ones that say that they love Africa, they'll die for Africa. But and literally ask them, what have they done for Africa? And then here will come all the excuses like, oh, well, what have you done for Africa? You love Africa so much. You say that you're African. You'll die for Africa. Let them tell you they'll die for Africa. I'm like, okay, do you mean you're gonna go to Africa and die there, or do you mean you're gonna die over here for Africa? Like I just need some clarity on that because I'm not really understanding what you're talking about. But yeah, all these Africans that say that they love Africa, and it's like, no offense to Africans, right? No offense, right? No offense to Africans at all. No offense, but I mean, I mean, um all these Africans that say that they'll do everything for Africa, it's like I noticed that usually they just come here, they'll build a house in Africa, and they'll call it a day. That's usually what they do. They'll just come here, build a house for themselves, not even build a house for someone else, not even build a rental property. They'll just live a house that they can go and retire in, and that's it. And I'm like, I think the minimum that Africans do in the West should be way more. Aside from even sending the money back home, because that's your family. Of course you're gonna send money back home. You kind of have to, because no offense, I I don't know about every single African country, but most African countries do not have social services, right? The employment rate is very bad. So you sending money back home, you're doing that as kind of an obligation. It's not really you love your family so much so you want them to have money. It's like you have to send them money. So then to me, like, if that's all you're doing and then you're building a house, I feel like if you're going to be in the West for 20, 30, 40 years, I mean, if that's all you can accomplish, then what was the point in you leaving? Like, I was like, no, but like really, what was the point in all of that? You know, now to the younger generation credit, they're the ones that are building businesses. They're actually doing more than just sending money back home. So I'm seeing that trend changing, and I'm very, very happy about that. But whenever I talk about the older generation and things that they could have done right, you know what? You know what these Africans say? You didn't have to go through what they went through. Like, they have money now. They have resources. They got here when buying a house was affordable. They had time to do things. They didn't do it. So if I'm complaining about that, I don't know why that's such a problem. Because guess what? I'm also at that age where I'm looking at myself. I'm like, what am I going to leave for my future generation? I don't have children yet, but hey, cross fingers, maybe 1 or 2 years I'll have kids. Life goes by so fast. I'm going to hold myself accountable for what I did and what I didn't do. So when I hold the previous generation accountable, it's something that I plan on doing myself as well. So I don't know why that's so criminal. I'm sorry. Like, a lot of these African parents did a horrible job. Like, I'm so sorry. I'm not speaking about mine. Mine did an amazing job. But some of them, I'm sorry. Like, they really could have done better. Now the question here is, who was supposed to educate them? That's a good question, but I feel like somewhere along the lines they should have got help. They should have looked at what they were doing and and reversed it. And the worst part about some of these African parents is when you confront them about it, you know what they'll say? They'll say, "Oh, we brought you guys to this country. We've done enough." And I'm just like, okay, I could have traveled here on my own. No, like, no offense, that would have taken a lot of money, a lot of time, but it wouldn't have been impossible for me to come here by myself. Like, at least traveling to here. So then when you use the whole, well, we brought you guys here, it's like, okay. I mean, I could have done that myself, no offense. So if you're saying that I should always just be quiet because you brought me here, it's like, what else? The part that you birthed me, the fact that you birthed me, I get that. Like, I can never take that back. I'm really thankful. But the bare minimum of you birthing me and then bringing me here to this country, not giving me any financial assistance, not um giving me like any business acumen, business advice, not doing any of that is something that you should have done. And The fact is, just talking about that is not a problem. But then when I bring that up with you and all of a sudden you just want to get defensive, then it's like, how can we move forward? Like, just admit that you could have done a better job is all I'm saying. Now, I wanted to ask you guys a question along with this whole Africans in the West, blah, blah, blah thing. Um, okay. Because, see, you have some Africans, right? Like African parents that are so disappointed that their kids grow up and they're gangsters. They do a lot of crimes. They do all this stuff. But then is the thing. I used to be like, why would you come here and be a loser? I used to be so harsh on those Africans who did that. But now I'm having a second look. Not that I excuse it, but I'm starting to understand it a little bit more. Let's say your parents came here in the 90s, in the 80s, especially, and they maybe left from a civil war, or maybe they left from conditions that were really, really bad. So they just had to go, right? Now you are on government assistance, your refugee program, government assistance, you're getting a lot of help. You're clearly not living in the best environment. Like, you're not living in the suburbs. You're living in really bad housing, or even, let's just not use refugee. Let's just say in general, a lot of Africans, when they come here, they don't come here as millionaires. So they live in like the some of the roughest parts of the city. And maybe they don't actually get out until a period of 5 to 10 years. All of that time though, your kids have already been socialized in that rough environment. But then when they get socialized and when they, I guess, get off track, then you as a parent are like, what happened? Why are they doing this? And I'm just like, you literally raised your kids in the ghetto for how long? And now you're asking why they became bad, why they took to the streets? Are you serious? It usually takes people so long to realize that, okay, I'm in a bad environment, this happened to me, this it takes people a long time to realize that. So how do you expect a kid, a teenager, to understand that? Like, you're the adult here, you're supposed to know that. you know like, they're putting so much onus on these children, and it's unfortunate. When I it's weird. I'm not trying to make excuses for kids that steal and rob and do bad things, but at the same time, like, when you see some of them doing that, you have to understand that's a trauma response. You have to understand that that's what they have to do in their environment to get respect. You have to understand that that's the way that they've been socialized. Let's say that you're a single mom, right? I hate the whole single mom thing, but it happens. It happens. You're a single mom, so you're working as much as you can to try to provide for the family. You're leaving your child to be with their friends all the time. You honestly think you're gonna have a big influence on them? You have to be lucky with who they decide to hang out with, who decides to welcome them into their tribe, into their family. So when people just keep talking about, oh, these kids are bad, these kids are yeah, they are, but really, they're not growing up in Africa. Okay? They're not growing up in a system where if they do something bad, their auntie, their uncle, their neighbor is going to check them. They're growing up in an environment where they can honestly do whatever they want. And the way that the system is set up, it's even better if they do whatever they want because then they can go to jail. So that's like you can't, when certain African parents like expect kids here to be 100% African, uphold the culture, uphold this, uphold that. I'm like, you want these kids to be 100% African. You want them to literally grow up the way that you did, but they're not growing up where you did. They're not growing up with the same resources, the same people. How is that possible? Like, you know, and I'm not complaining. I'm not saying don't bring your kids over here. That's completely hypocritical. But it's like, don't bring your kids over here and expect that they're going to turn out just like you. That's not a reasonable expectation. And then, you'll have people that'll be like, well, look at the good cases. Um okay, I don't know about you guys, but the average person I know is not like the son or daughter of African immigrant, is not a doctor, is not a lawyer. Yes, you have people that are doing good things and making money, whatever, but that expectation of someone's just gonna come here and make like $500,000 a year, that is not likely. You know what I mean? The average person just makes average money, even if that. But yeah, what do you guys think? I'm just gonna greet you guys real quickly, play a quick clip, and then I guess open the panel. I'm American Indian, not African at all. Hey, Trap Rebel. Oh, I've been here. How are you doing? Black Americans are not African anymore, but Africans who migrated to the West willingly are Africans, to include children they had in the West. Okay, I think ethnically they are Africans, but culturally I wouldn't say they are Africans like that. Like it's kind of a mix. And the reason why I'm saying that is because, I mean, no offense to like kids who don't know their language, that's usually no fault of your own. But how can someone be African if they don't eat their language? Sorry, they don't speak their language, they don't eat their food, they don't dress African. Like they're just not really African anymore. And if you ask an average African over here what's going on in their country, they'll have to call someone to get what's going on, real time news, or they'll have to read a newspaper to know what's going on. None of these people know what's actually going on in their country the minute it happens because they're not living there. So how would they know? You're saying they're too busy for. My mom is fresh Kenyan, and when I go with her to Kenya, they say that she isn't a real Kenyan. Exactly. Like, okay, so I know this African auntie, she's been here for 20 years, right? There's nothing wrong with that, right? She's been here for 20 years, and the way that she speaks her language, it's not the same as somebody who's actually lived there their whole life. So of course she's African. Of course she has the passport, the citizenship, whatever, but she's different and they even know that she's different. Even the way that she speaks the local language, she speaks it not the same. She speaks it like an outdated version of the language. The new lingo, the new slang, she doesn't know it. And that's just the fact. So I don't know why people get so offended when you say this. Okay. So you have So you have two different. Hi, Synovia. So you have American First Rifleman. Um, what do you mean? Let's do a referendum and hold elections and voting system to conform if we are African or not. Any person regarded as black is an African, whether born in the continent or in the diaspora. Um, See, I would say that they are ethnically African, but um, I honestly think that culturally is really tricky. I really think being a cultural African is very tricky. I really do. Like you can look African and be African, but are you actually African? Like, to the real sense of it, you know? And if the case is, well, if you look African, you are African, then why is it so important to be African if you could just look like one and be one? Like, shouldn't there be more stipulations? Shouldn't there be more things added onto it? Adam and Eve are not African, but they are not real anyway. Um, okay. Are you African American? Trap Rebel is Black American, I believe. He's he or she can't tell still, but he or she is not African American. Orphan homes and elderly homes, etc. Yep, yep. I think that's something that, and I believe this is where the diaspora comes in. All different types of diaspora. Like we really need to change that because we can't keep doing the whole thing of the family takes care of the person. That's a huge load on the family, especially if the family doesn't have money. You know, there are horror stories of you being in an African country and you have to pay for your medical health care. You don't have the money, the person dies in the hospital. Like there I don't know what exactly needs to happen, but there needs to be a social reform. African parents always make send money to their do your parents make you send money back home? Cuz mine don't, but they force me to speak to a lot of people back home, which I'll be honest with you, like I could do better on, but they don't force me to send money back home. I have a couple of friends who say that their parents force them to send money back home, and I'm just like, geez, I mean, who are you living for? Are you living for yourself or are you living for your family back home? I feel like your family back home should get the leftovers of what you have, but you know, you hear these stories of Africans working another job just to send money back home. I'm like, why would you do that? Oh, because they raised me for 30 years, they raised me for 40 years. Yes. And that was a long time ago. Did they kill themselves? Did they work an extra job to take care of you? I mean, unless they did that and you're just returning the favor, then okay. But if not, then I don't know why you would need to literally age yourself by getting an extra job just to send money back home. That like that mentality of I'm gonna do everything back home, do everything back home. You have kids here. Are you taking care of your kids the way that you take care of other people's kids? Because that can honestly create resentment. There's a program, Franklin, the Nigerian YouTuber, I really like him. There's a program that he did where he was like, "Oh, this one lady, she didn't take her kids on vacation. She didn't take her kids to the amusement park. They wore old hand-me-down clothes. They did all of that so they could save money back home. And in the end, her kids do not even visit back home because they weren't raised in a way that they would be visiting back home frequently when they were younger. So that love of Africa that the parent has, the kid doesn't even have. So you as a parent think, "Oh yeah, my kids are going to be there. They're going to come." They're not going to be there like that. A lot of these African kids and adults, let's just call them adults now cuz we're adults. Um from what I see, they just go back home for like 1 month. They go back home for winter vacation, summer vacation, and they come back. So it's like if you're gonna build a whole house just for that, cool. You know, cool. Do you have the intention that they're gonna go back there and live there? Like what? Anyway, and the when I talk about building houses, I don't mean building like a, you know, just a regular house. They'll build mansions, mansions on top of mansions, and then you realize who's living there. It's their cousins. Their ungrateful cousins are living there. So like this house that you thought your kids were gonna go there and live, they're not doing that. But you literally wasted your whole life neglecting your children to build a house back home that, no offense, but unless you retire and you say you're going to live there, are you even going to live at the house? You have this case of Africans, a lot of them thinking that they have so much time. When they get to 60, 70, some of them are even too sick to go back home to retire. That's the plan that, oh yeah, I'm going to go back home and I'm going to retire. I'll have a great time. By the time they get to that age, some of them cannot even go back. They're not even fit enough to go back and retire. So then to me, it's like, what was the whole plan? What was the whole plan? You know what I mean? Okay. A lot of Africans in the West are gonna get mad because they know that I'm calling them out, but there needs to be a plan. Okay, a lot of them need to have plans of what they're gonna do when they travel. This whole I'm just gonna build a house for myself and my family is not good enough. It's not. It's not. That has been the standard for, let's say, the past 20, 30 years. So people are just continuing with that, and I'm like, no. One of my cousins, he's in his 40s. Um, man, one of these days I'll probably make a community post of the house that he has. He has a very good house, but along with having a good house, he has so many business chains in there. And I'm like, yes, that's what you're supposed to do. Like, don't just sit there and expect the government to do everything for you. These are the same Africans that say, "Oh, I'm in the West, right? I have so many resources. I have so many opportunities that people back home don't have." So then the question is, if you have all these resources, you have all these opportunities, what are you doing with them? Why are you giving your home country the bare minimum? Like, why is that acceptable? You know? And then they'll get so upset at you, right? They'll be like, "Oh, well, you don't know how life is here." Like, how are you telling me I don't know how life is here when I live here? Like, how are you gonna tell me that? I mean, no offense, but the average person works 40 hours a week, right? You work 40 hours a week. What else are you doing with your time? What else are you doing? Resources. What else are you doing? What else? I have kids. Listen, I don't mean to be mean to anyone who has children. I'm sorry. Like, I really don't mean to be mean right now. But you have kids. Okay. The school. If you're in the West, the school takes care of your children. Your kids are literally outside for 8 hours, 7 hours, maybe. It depends on the school. You don't have to pay for your kids to go to school. In some countries, you do not have to pay for your kids to get health care in the West. So that whole thing of I have kids, like that to me, that's also an excuse. I'm sorry. Like that's an excuse. That's such an excuse. So you're telling me that people in China, when they were trying to fix their country, they didn't have kids too? Oh man. Okay. God, why is that your name? Oh my goodness, why is that your name? Oh my gosh. My parents are in the US, but they're always forcing me to send wow. Your parents force you to send money to their siblings? Oh my, that's a different struggle. I'm not gonna lie. That is really, really bad. Um London, England is wild out here. Yeah, I heard about it. I heard about it. Especially I heard about the West Africans, Jamaicans, and now apparently it's other Africans too. I don't know. But anyways, I heard about that too. I watched Blue Story, and it's really sad, but at the end of the day, like the average African will just get mad at these kids, these young adults for acting up. But then it's like, where are their parents? Their parents are never there. Their parents are working 24/7, not home, and expecting their kids to become doctors? Like, listen, in my community, where you come from, if you're not investing in your child's education and your kid doesn't become what you want them to become, that's your fault because you didn't invest into their education. Don't just blame the child. Like, oh, they're so bad. And no offense, but a lot of these African parents, right? A lot of these African parents, I keep saying this, they did not grow up here. These African parents did not grow up here. So when they always want to do that whole comparison of, oh, when I was your age, I did this, I did that. Like, that was in the 60s, that was in the 70s, that was in the 80s, that was in the 90s, that was in a completely different country, completely different resources, completely different atmosphere. You cannot compare what you did in your youth to what African kids in the West are doing today. It does not make any sense. Now, and am I excusing bad behavior from a lot of these African kids? Not necessarily, but at the same time, I feel like there's some clemency that can be given, some understanding that can be given, some accountability from some of these parents that should be taken, and it's not, and it's frustrating. It really is. UK. Age black. They're gonna come for you. Oh, Zulia saying culturally, yes. Culture is poison. Oh, you mean like the culture of the West? I really don't feel like I'm African anymore. Yeah, age block. I feel like I lied to myself and I'll be like, I'm so African, but it's like other than the food that I eat, the language that I speak only with Africans from my country who want to speak the language or can. Um, I mean, I wear African clothes sometimes, but I'll be honest with you, I don't have that many. And then I also live in Canada, so it's kind of cold to always be wearing African clothes. And to be honest, I don't always wear African clothes. I wear Western clothes for the most part. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So it's like, how African am I really? Like it's not something I like to talk about. It's not something I like to admit, but How African am I really? If you ask me, right, what's going on in Ghana right now, I have to go to Google, right? Read a news report on what's going on. I don't know what's going on the ground. I'm not there. How can I know? You know, but you'll have some Africans be like, "Oh no, I'm so African." Yeah, okay, whatever. You know, I'll just be honest with you. I don't see a lot of Africans here as culturally African anymore. Ethnically, sure, you look African, you have an African name, but culturally, you're really not that much different from someone else in the same country that you live in. You're not. Okay. Oh, okay. So if the Africans here call themselves English and British, you would probably complain. Okay. Actually, see, I think that's why they're, let's say if they're in Canada, they're Ghanaian Canadian. But for them to say that they're just Ghanaian, I think is not correct. For them to say, "Oh yeah, I'm 100% Ghanaian," it's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. You're a product of your environment. You're a product of where you have been socialized. Unless you came here for maybe, let's say, 5 years, and then you left back, then okay, maybe maybe there's some leniency in there. But if you've been here for over 10 years and you're saying you're like an authentic African, yeah, no, you're not. I don't, well, hey, it's up for debate, but I would say that you're not. Yeah. Um, I'm no longer African culturally. I try to be as much as I can, but I'm not really that culturally African either. I would agree with that. Hi, Kala Genesis. Hi, Bertha. Okay. They say Americans make, okay. We have a lot more money in American than people who immigrate to Europe. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. The America, I know a lot of people speak bad about America. I get it, but America really is the land of opportunity. It's one of the best. Aside from, the bad parts about America, if you're focused, you could really do well in America. There are a lot of resources that are given to you. Like, I don't know specifically, but I'm sure in some states, if you're trying to do a business and you have a business plan, the government could help you with taxes. They could help you with giving you a grant, giving you a loan. It might not be that much, but I know that there are some programs that are out there that people just don't know about. They don't care to look them up. And people might be like, well, you can still get discrimination when applying for a loan. Absolutely. But let me tell you this, right? Let me tell you this. You can live in a whole country in Africa, be in the exact same circumstances, and the government does not care at all. You can literally, you guys seen those kids of those African kids that like build, uh, they build cars, they build all this stuff. You would think that the government would sponsor these kids and be like, okay, wow, you're brilliant, you're amazing. Let me hone in on your skills. They don't care. So I'm like, when I look at that, yeah, getting grants in the West to do business that's a good thing. Because that's not the standard across the whole world. And even if you don't want to talk about Africa, look at South America. Look at some of these Asian countries, not the better off ones, but the worst off ones. You're not going to get help just because, it's the right thing to do. Like a lot of these governments don't care. Um, my ancestors come from Africa. That's most important. I had no control of what happened before I was born, but I knew though that my ancestors are African. That's what matters. Yeah, absolutely. I consider diasporans to be Africans. Um, well, same as me, like ethnically African, but culturally not really. If you make over 30K a year, you are in the top percent of income earners in the world. Most of the planet don't earn. Are you serious? Kala, isn't that like poverty? Isn't that poverty wages? I guess in the West that is poverty wages, but yeah, you're right. In the rest of the world, that's a lot of money. Oh, what makes me African? Um, hmm, what makes me African? I don't know. I guess my name, the food I eat, the fact that I know an African language. I sometimes go to African events. I sometimes dress in African clothes. But I think that's it, really. I don't know what else would make me African. And I feel like, no offense, but all those things, non Africans can do it too. So then I really don't understand what it actually means to be African. If someone could learn the language, someone could go to African restaurant, somebody could wear African clothes, they have it on Amazon from China. You know what I mean? Like anybody else could do this stuff too. But would they be considered Africans? No, they wouldn't. So it's like I don't know. Maybe we just need to come with a new requirement of what it actually means to be, I guess, African in the full sense, not ethnically, because to be honest, that's just DNA. Like you were born that way, you were born with those genes, you didn't really do anything to earn those genes, to be quite honest. What would actually make you an African in another sense? This is hard, man. This is really hard. Anyways, yes, yes, yes. Calogenesis. There's this video, right? Of shoot, was it a diaspora? Was anyways, I don't remember the video exactly. But they were talking about how they were building a whole bunch of beautiful houses, a whole bunch of beautiful mansions. And the guy literally asked the people who live around there. Oh no, it was hotels. Yes, it was hotels. Like this whole strip of hotels. I think it was African Superstar. This whole strip of hotels, right? And the whole road was messed up dirt road. And they were like, okay, these hotels are making so much money. Like, no one's thought about developing a road. Like no one's even thought about, okay, let's let these five hotel managers come together, or hotel owners I should say, and actually just establish a road, at least around the strip, around the area. Like no one's thinking about that. This is not a case of, oh, they don't have the money to do it. This is a case of they don't care, and that's really sad. That's really sad that Africans don't care about this type of stuff. Not the ones who don't have money, the ones who do have money don't care. That's really sad. It's like other people have pride, in their nations. You know, w- we keep talking about Ukraine is being blown up. No, Ukraine is in a war. It, apparently Ukraine is not the richest country ever. But if you look at images over there and you compare that to some of the best countries in Africa, I'm just like, wow, dang, like something's really wrong here. Like, oh, we Africans need to do better. Anyways, hi Molly. long time no see. Okay, let me. Hi, Janula. Let me go ahead. Big up. Oh, okay. So let me go back now and just if anyone has anything to add. Let me drop the link. Actually, in the meanwhile, as I drop it, I'll play a clip.
Bit, under the spell of the Western world.
Colonialism has a massive effect on the whole psyche of an individual.
People who come here, they think I have to speak British, I have to be British, I have to speak British to be accepted.
I think with the colonisation, it has infiltrated to the young generation because, for one, they don't speak the language.
Kids end up growing up not being able to communicate with their grandparents, not being able to know their own history, the traditions of their own groups.
British culture was imposed on them, and then now coming here, they feel like they need to embrace British culture and do that through their children.
I think it's sad that the language is sort of disappearing in the second generation.
He was a very proud African, and I think he would have recognized and always did recognize the importance of culture and language.
The British Ghanaian population in London is undergoing a process of language endangerment. Language endangerment occurs when a language is at risk of dying out because its speakers die out, they stop passing it on to the next generation, or they shift to speaking another language entirely. If the number of British-born people of Ghanaian descent who cannot speak a Ghanaian language fluently continues to increase, Ghanaian spoken languages in London will die out.
That's a big problem.
It's a danger of losing yourself.
The only way that you can prove that you're Ghanaian really is to understand the culture, and the language is part of the culture.
Can I say a few words in the Ghanaian language?
We may be British born, but we're not British culturally. Let's be really honest.
Language endangerment in any part of the world always has direct implications on the culture of the group in question, their identity, sense of community, and their sense of belonging.
I'm going to investigate the language endangerment crises within the Ghanaian diaspora and find out whether British Ghanaians truly are lost in translation. This is London, home to a thriving multicultural.
Yo, hello, hello. Can anyone hear me? Can I have a one in the chat if I'm coming through? Testing. Wow. Thanks, Mrs. Whitley. I can't hear AM, you know.
Hello?
Oh, hey, how you doing?
Good.
That's good. Yeah, man, I was agreeing with what you're saying, AM. I can't disagree. It's sad. It's the truth, you know. I don't disagree with anything you're saying. I mean, I have to send money every Christmas to my mom's family, and when I go there, you know, they expect me to go there and give them money. And I remember when I went for the first time in like 5 years, like 7 years ago, and I said to them, I said, what do you expect happens if my mom dies? What do you do then?
Oh, yeah.
Because a lot of these people, unfortunately, I don't think, man, I don't want to say anything crazy, but I don't think long-term planning is a is a skill that's really used a lot close to the equator. That's just my opinion, yeah. And what happens if my mum dies? Because she's the one that is Kenyan, born there, raised there, you know, she's Kenyan. I'm obviously British, right? So obviously I'm not going to have the desire as much to spend money and chop cash and throw money at them. So I'm thinking, you know, wouldn't it be better if you guys could think of an idea, a business plan or something, because you know the area better than my mum, you know the area better than me. So if you could come up with an idea, a business plan, which we could finance, then that would be something that is sustainable. I was only 21 at the time and I was telling them this. And of course they haven't thought of anything. You know, it's just sad, isn't it?
Do you think that and I don't want to speak bad on them, but it's definitely both sides that are guilty, because I feel like if you've been giving money to somebody for 20 years and they haven't established something, then it's like, why haven't you told them that, hey, you should use this money for business? I
Yeah,
don't,
I
because
understand.
I see that too. I see that too, of Africans literally sending money back home, and it's like, do you think that's going to continue? Because I don't know if you've heard of Kwesi, but he's a panelist in the UK, and he's like, the parents that are doing all of this, once their kids grow up, they're not going to be sending the money back home. The remittances that people keep bragging about are going to dwindle, essentially. So then at that point, what are they going to do when people stop sending money back home?
Let's
Because I'll
start.
be honest with you, I don't really send money back home like that. I don't. I mean, the only person I send money back home to, and that's not even regular, would be my nephew. But like, I'm not like my mom that has like 10 people, 12 people sending money back home to. I'm not. And my grandmother, my parents take care of my grandmother. So, yeah.
What about your dad's family? Because he's Ghanaian as well, right?
Yes. Oh, my dad, his paycheck is also enough to send money back home.
Okay, that's good.
So, what I'll do is I'll occasionally buy gifts for my grandmother, but I'll be honest with you, I haven't actually like sent her money like, take this. Where did he go? Okay. Hi,
And that
Frisco.
is kind of janky.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I can hear you now, yeah.
Hey, African Millennial.
Hi, Steven.
How you doing?
How's Hamilton?
Cold as hell, but we getting there. How's Ottawa?
I'm not in Ottawa.
Oh, where are you in?
Have you ever heard of this city called Brampton?
Oh yeah, Brampton. I know Brampton. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Isn't it full of Indians?
How do you know about that?
I just know called Brampton is called Browntown. That's how I just kept on seeing it red called that way.
Yes,
Yeah,
it
there's
is
Sikhs.
Yeah.
with Indians. Yes, it is.
All right. So to just go to the main topic, are Africans in the West even more African? I guess it depends of how long they've stayed in the West. As you said it earlier, if they've stayed here for 5 years and they've gone back, then sure they can retain their African sensitivity, if I can put it in that language. But if you've lived there longer than 10 years or more, then there are some you are basically no different from any black diasporan in this society as far as they're concerned.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%.
Because I've lived in Canada for the past 10 years. Hopefully I'll be going back to Nigeria this year. I know I will stand out because, as you said, things have changed. The culture, the vibe, the language, the food, some things have changed. So you might not really, you can fit it. I can still speak Pidgin and all, but it's not as good as it was when I first came. You know what I'm saying? And I mostly keep up with like the Nigerian news or African news in general through Al Jazeera, Twitter, YouTube. You know, even some smart TVs have some like an African section. You can actually watch like African news on TV, especially it depends on what country that you come from. So thanks to social media and the advancements of technology, I think Africans have an easy access back home through via technology. They can see the news, even though they are not on the ground, but you know, they are still having like keeping themselves updated. For example, you heard about the Nigerian election that just passed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The rigged
And
one.
I'm sorry?
The fixed election, is that the one?
Yeah, the rigged election, yeah. You know, and a lot of people in diaspora were kind of disappointed with that, but yeah. So, and also, and as you said, many of their kids won't be sending money to their relatives as their parents would, because they just feel that they don't really have an obligation to do so, even though they're their uncle, but are still at the same time, they don't really have that much of a connection or should I say loyalty to family members like that back home.
Agreed. So we're gonna let Afroscope go ahead. Thanks for calling in. Afroscope, you're muted.
So I will let the other panelists go for a second.
Yeah, they already went.
I'll come back.
Okay. Sure. No problem. Yeah, I feel like it's because you can say that you are African or whatever, but then when you go back and you dress different, your accent is different, you're using a different currency, you don't know about. Okay, so a lot of the Africans who go back, right? Let's say they use something like Uber, Bolt, like they're not up to date with what the Uber drivers and Bolt drivers in that country do. They think that is just gonna be like, okay, I'm taking an Uber, how I would take an Uber here, everything's honest. Like they don't get the current of what's going on over there. So it's like, how can you say you really are African when you don't know? Let's say you don't know the price of something in the market and you don't even know that you're being taken advantage of. Like, how would you know that? Like, you've been removed from there for a long time. Like, you're not up.
I'm going to say something very controversial.
Yeah.
I want to say I feel that if you've emigrated from a country, I mean, I feel like you've kind of given up on that country in a way. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it's betrayal. I'm not saying you've sold out your country. I'm not saying that. But I feel that unless you were driven out due to war or something crazy like that, I feel that if you've made the voluntary decision to leave a country to go to another country and pay taxes in that country and become a citizen of that country, I feel like you have decided to, you know, you've sort of giving up on that country. You know, and in a lot of countries, I think India is one of them, you can't have dual citizenship. If you take the citizenship of another country, you cannot be Indian. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I agree. That's very true. But you know, I think it also depends on the circumstances. You know, a lot of
Yeah,
a lot
but
of people. Go on.
Oh no, go on. I have a
I mean,
rebuttal.
a lot of people, like, let me use Africans for example. A lot of them will say their country didn't treat them right. I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of Africans living outside Nigeria or Ghana or West Africa would love to go back if the country was stable. They wouldn't have any need to go anywhere. You know, I was explaining it to somebody that, especially their children who were born here, they're not African in that sense. The only thing that is just African, Nigerian, or Ghanaian about them is just their name. That's it.
Okay, but I agree though. Like, okay, because an average African who didn't leave because of war will say they left because of hardship, right?
Yeah.
But then it's like once they get to a better economic level, what's beyond that? Because they're in a better economic level in a different country.
Right.
And
I mean,
even that economic level that they're talking about, there's no way you could work here, pay taxes, buy property, do all of that over here, and give enough to Africa, unless you're just really rich. Like, there's no way you can do that. So it's like,
absolutely.
I kind of agree with Zulia. Like, it's not something that a lot of Africans like to talk about, but I do believe that you kind of did abandon your country in a way.
Yeah, I mean, there is some truth to that statement, I mean, with the rise of all this thing, of this African pop culture, that all this exuberance and stuff, it wasn't like that like 10 or 15 years ago, and I think, a lot of people, yes, they have given up on their country. They have, wanted to make things better, to the point that once they now acclimate a lot of success in the West, some develop disdain for their country and, refer to it as names. They encourage people not to go there, all that kind of stuff. So it all depends on the circumstance of how you left. There are some people who are filthy rich in Nigeria or in other Ghana. They just travel out of the country for just for education. After the education is broken, then they just go back, because they already have access to what Americans have. They already have access over there, so they don't really need for them to, immigrate anywhere where life is already good for them in Africa anyway.
Right. Afroscope, did you have something to add?
Hello, can you hear me? Greetings, everyone. It's been a while. Hello, can you hear me?
Greetings. Yes, we can hear you.
So, yeah, that's a great topic. Sometimes, as an African, I wouldn't like to go down, talk too much about it, because some people might feel offended, might be like, oh, are you trying to be like, oh, we are not African enough for you, or are you trying to say that we are not part of you anymore just because I'm in the UK or I speak with a different accent? So basically, I'm gonna use like one stone to kill two birds, and I will start by saying that the overall, the loss of the topic is kind of related to African culture or loss of African culture in foreign countries. And I feel like as Africans, as vulnerable as we are, because most of the time, most people leave the continent because they wanted to seek, everybody knows, greener pastures, whatever it is called, greener pastures. They are going to seek for greener pastures. So at the end of the day, that alone pushes us to many social circumstances where we have to try to assimilate into other cultures in order to benefit from the bigger culture, So during all those assimilation processes, we tend to lose our indigenous cultures, our cultural practices, and our traditions. And at the end of the day, yes, nobody will tell you that you lose part of it. Even some of us that are educated, like some of us who might be educated, like even if you, and I was telling somebody some time ago that, yeah, some of us, even though we haven't stepped out of the continent before because we read from an American university, so our mindset about things and society, culture, politics, and everything is totally different from a common or an indigenous person. I'm not saying indigenous, it's not, I'm indigenous, right? But like a real Ghanaian, there are things that I say on my channel, a real Ghanaian wouldn't say it, and they don't even think about that. So at the end of the day, you come in or you stay or residing in a foreign country for a while, you are definitely not going to be the same African guy or lady that left some years back ago. You are definitely gonna have you are definitely gonna be influenced by a variety of social, economic, and political factors. And I just don't want to keep the topic all circulated up because I heard people talk about the generational differences between younger generations born in foreign countries as well as the old people. They still keep some part of them, like they still remember people home. You know, I kind of remember some songs that we used to sing back in the days when we were young. Like, if you go out, I think it's about if you travel, please remember when you are coming back home, remember and bring me bring me bread, bring me this, bring me shoe, and it just, I feel like a lot of the old folks or your parents might keep those parts of them like that. That's their culture. That they want to make their families back home feel happy that they are doing well or whatever. Even if they are not doing well, it's a different topic. Yeah, so I'm gonna hand over the mic to another person. And thanks for giving the floor.
I agree. I think it's impossible. Okay, not impossible, but it's very difficult to, especially if the kids have not lived in Africa before. Like, how African can they be outside of Africa? I don't think it's easy. So it's like, I don't know. If someone was talking about their parents forced them to send money back home to their parents' siblings, their parents' brothers and sisters, like, why would I get you need to take care of your family, but that's not the child's siblings. That's the child's auntie and uncle. Why are you forcing your kid to do that? That doesn't, I don't see the point in doing that. Like, it's not, that should not be mandatory, you know? I don't know, like, your aunties and uncles have to do something with the money that their brother or sister are sending them, not wait on the next generation to send them money. That's really selfish, I think, personally. But anyways, yeah, Kifara, you can go ahead.
Wow, comment ça va?
Ça va bien.
Ça fait longtemps que tu as été perdu, tu vas bien?
Oui.
All right. Well, I've been listening to you. I don't have so much time. I just want to make a little comment here. This is the thing. Africans living abroad, when you started speaking, I think it's your responsibility to make sure you remain African, because that's how people are always going to see you. It doesn't matter how you feel about yourself. You understand? You may feel you're not African, but people are always going to treat you as Africans, because that's always going to be your identity. It doesn't matter what you think you are. Okay? So I think it is your responsibility to make sure what you think might alienate you from Africa, you make sure that particular thing does not alienate you. Maybe your local language, if you can speak T or to Yoruba or your children, whatever, I think that in itself is enough. Sending money to African family, I'm not a fan of that. You don't have to. As you said, rightly said, you don't have to send money back to Africa to be an African. You don't have to. That's not your job. If you don't have families or you were born in the West or whatever, that you don't really know people over there. It makes sense. But like that touch that is going to make you not to be African, especially like language or maybe cooking some of your food, it is your responsibility, whatever parents, to make sure your children don't ever forget that. Because as I said, you're African. Doesn't matter what you think until when you get to a point where you've been treated as one, then you might come back to your race sense as well. Okay, I think I'm Canadian, but I'm not, or I think I'm American, or British, or whatever. You're not. We have people like Balotelli. He's Italian, or whatever, but he still got racial or African jokes because that's what he is. You understand what I mean? So it's not matter. It does not matter who you are, or what you think you are. It's what people see you to be. When I see a Chinese man in Europe or in Italy, I don't say, "Oh, an Italian." The first thing that comes to my mind, "Oh, there's a Chinese," and I might say, "Ina," and then he starts speaking in Italy. I say, "Ah, okay." But who you are is who you are. That's just what I wanted to say.
Well said.
So there is this issue about discrimination. Like everybody knows for sure that when you live in a foreign country, you might be discriminated against because of your culture, especially our African continental culture, even though it's gaining ground wherever, but we do go through discrimination even here on the continent. So at the end of the day, these are a reason why I feel like we tend to lose some of our ways of life or African ways of life, and we don't even know because we are just trying to survive. It's just a survival mechanism that we develop over time. When I started my service here, it's a few months ago, right? When I went there, and whenever I speak, people are like, they don't even understand me, and I'm like, why would you say that you don't understand me? Like, I speak the same English that you speak. And so it was I don't know how to tell you this, but I've also felt discriminated against, even though I'm a Ghanaian. I haven't traveled anywhere before, but they're telling me that, oh, you don't speak, you can't understand you. You are only speaking English, like. So I had to start speaking the local language. Like I had to start speaking even at work. Like I have to tell them, even just to make myself more African with them, and it's worked. So at the end of the day, what if you can't speak you lose your local language? You can't speak your Yoruba, you can't speak your Igbo, or you can't speak your what the popular language here in Kenya and somewhere in South Africa. I think that's Swahili. If you can't speak them anymore, you get there and you are like, hello, and then you are like, what are you talking about? Because they can see that you look like them, and then for people who look exactly, like their own people back home, you went there, you're like, and then they sense your accent and they be like, so they start maybe price gouging, or a lot of people trying to question you at the same time. Where have you been? Where are you from? And sometimes it can be so overwhelming that you are going to be dealing with all of this, and you'll be like, what is different here? Like, am I the different? Am I the stranger here? This is my home, so why are they acting like this? That's a big question that will come to anybody's mind.
Can I jump in before I go? Just make a quick point.
Yep.
Yeah, so basically, I have a kind of a bit of a disdain towards continental Africans who do the following, who have children in the West, don't take them back, don't teach them the language, westernize their name. Because as a guy who, is half, ADOS, I guess, you're basically making your child you're basically enslaving your child in a way, man. It sounds so weird, but you're basically stripping their identity away willingly. And I find that so shameful and embarrassing and submissive that I would borderline count that as an insult to your ancestors. Because even if you're poor and you can't take them back to their homeland, you can at least teach them the language, you could at least give them the name, you could at least cook the food for them. You see what I'm saying? And for parents to willingly not do that, I think that's shameful, and I think that's basically the definition of self-hate. And with that, I'm out.
Yes. Yeah, and I 100% agree with him. I don't blame the kids who never been there, never visited there, never lived there for not knowing their parents' language. I blame the parents, and I think there's something about, I don't know why some African parents act like their culture is not good enough, that their kids should not know about their culture, because at least give them the choice to accept it or reject it. But I don't understand why you wouldn't think it's important for your kids to know the language of their parents or of their country. Why would you not take the time to do that? Like, how do you really expect them to learn the language if they don't live there and you don't speak it to them and you don't force them to interact with you in the language? And not to do comparison too much, but a lot of these Asian people I see, their kids were born here and they understand the language, they can speak it. So then how come when it comes to Africans is that you don't care to teach your kids your language? I don't like it's the excuses are a little bit too much in my opinion. But thanks, JB Jones. Long time no see. Thank you. I appreciate it. Mima Kwaba. So yeah, Darth, did you have anything to say?
Yeah, I just came in to show some support, African millennial and all that kind of stuff. We haven't seen you for a while and all that stuff. I was just telling Dr. Kizo the other day, African millennial, you put her out of business and all that kind of stuff with this output you're doing. But I say maybe perhaps YouTube is not your primary source of income, so you have to focus on other things, So it's what it is. It's what it is. How you been anyway?
Nothing bad has happened. Been very, very good. Still enjoying the early
After school,
2023.
you're doing well? Say that
Huh?
again?
I'm still enjoying the early 2023. I mean,
Oh,
I'm still in that mood still.
all right. Yeah, early 2023 has been hectic. I tell you, there are so many things from all over the places and all that stuff. It's like that beginning year of a work and all that stuff. You kind of get a bit going on. But it's all good. Africa, you doing all right? Yeah, I'm good. Anyways, what I gotta say about this topic, I suppose it's kind of that thing, where being a minority is always being a minority in a country and all that kind of stuff. You see some of the results it can produce and all that stuff. You're not entirely living your entirely authentic life as well and all that stuff. So sometimes you kill part of your spirit to kind of like get along. I'm trying to go at this at a esoterical level or something. You're killing part of your spirit to live and all that kind of stuff, right? So your culture, your language, especially your language, is important to who you are and how you view the world and all that. And not even just how you view the world, and even how you express yourself in the world is important, right? And culture is important because it shows some of those. It's almost some of those deviances and eccentricities in human beings and all that stuff. Other than that, you're just like a copy of everyone else, and it's not good being a cheap ass copy of somebody else. What it means, just you're subverting yourself into a place of subservience as well, into a culture as well. So you are saying to yourself that this person is kind of superior to you. That's why speaking another man's language, you're living in another man's country, it comes with that as well, where you're gonna have to accept a place of second classism and all that kind of stuff. Right? So it's very, very important and very, very critical that Africans learn to speak their language or have it. And it's also unfortunate for Europeans not being able to understand other languages other than their own as well, because other people can deal and talk in their own special language. So it's something unique. Language is unique and something special. Otherwise, if you're having to follow another man's another man's language, you're becoming a you're falling into the root of bastardization. That's what the bastardization culture is. One who doesn't have a language and all that kind of stuff. Doesn't have a language, doesn't have a culture, and something like that, African millennial. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand and I agree 100%.
It is a bastard culture. You are essentially bastardizing yourself, thinking to adopt another person's language and completely reject your own as well. You're not looked at with respect that way as well and all that stuff. In fact, you're kind of found to be some kind of novelty, some kind of show thing, a joke thing and all that kind of stuff. So it's not a good thing entirely to, at least it's good to learn a business language because you have to obviously be in touch with your reality and all that kind of stuff, unfortunately. But it's also very important that you don't forget the root of where you come from. And my people, they say, no matter how far you go, you should remember where you come from. You should remember where your home is and all that stuff. So you can travel all the way far. You remember, some people have this idea, African millennial. They have this idea that they can completely live their life completely away from their home and never go back to their home. That is what it's equivalent to. It's equivalent to, oh, I'm gonna speak another man's language. I don't care about my language. I'm gonna forget that, and I'm gonna move to this man and live there till I die and never go back to see my home. I'm not interested. I don't want that. What kind of person is that, African millennial? Right? Somebody who will never go back to the home they are born in and all that, born from and all that. I've met a few people like that and all that. They're completely not interested. In Africa, they're not interested at all. And I find that very, very strange, but it's the way it is and all that stuff. Those kind of people, I feel they are a bit lost or something like that. You understand? Lost. That's what they call lost sheep. And that. You know what I'm saying?
I understand. I get the whole. I don't know. I find it hard just to work so much and not save enough to at least visit your home country. But I've met people like that as well, that they completely don't care about the country. The government was bad, I understand that. But
Yeah.
they're people.
You
and
try to
they'll just
introduce.
completely reject their own country. And I'm like, well, you didn't build this country, so all what you're bragging about, you didn't do anything, contribute to it either.
Yeah.
So, have you know anyone like that who deny their identity? Like, you know for sure that the mannerism suggests that this person is a Khan, but you say, "Oh, hello, sister, how are you?" Or you try to greet in your language, and then they are like, they snap off. Where do I know you from? Like, what the heck is going on here? Like,
I've met plenty of people like that. Yeah.
Yeah, people who have denied. I've not met too many people like that, but I've met people who have expressed the desire to not ever go back to Africa, and the African, like, never to go back to Africa. And I find that always strange. So you want to be buried here in this foreign land. African village, is that what you want? You want to be buried? Oh, maybe it could be different. You're quite Canadian, isn't it, Africa? But you're a bit. I mean, I suppose you have the accent, but does the accent alone say that you're Canadian entirely, or do you feel you're Canadian entirely because you have the accent, African millennial?
I would say that I'm pretty Canadian, but not entirely. Not entirely, no. Because I mean, I could say I am, but I mean, I don't eat Canadian food much. I go to African events.
Okay.
I can speak the language. I listen to African music. So, yes, I guess I am, but not really. I mean, amongst a real Canadian, I traveled to another city a while ago to finish school, and that place was 97% Muzungu. Okay, I felt really out of place over there. I did. And I'm like, well, these are the people from this country. Why do I feel like this? And I'm just like, because I don't get it. I don't understand. I don't like to go out and do winter sports. That's not something I care about. So there were so many things we couldn't relate on because that's not what I care about. We were socialized differently. Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. I mean, you're still in touch with your own African culture as well. So I guess you're you're away from that and all that kind of stuff, from that disservice that's been done as well. I think it's something like people regret. Like me, I've gotten to the stage where I've done some research on my ancestral name, right? My ancestral name, which is the name that's African and all that stuff. All right, I'm revealing something like me might use against me. All right, anyways, so I've done some research and I know my ancestral name. So I just look at this and say, so hold on a second. I had this thought yesterday. I say, are you telling me somebody as great as Darth Malga, somebody as great as me, will go around wearing a slave master's or a colonizer's name till the end of time? Do you understand what I'm saying? So would it mean that I will have to wear a slave master's name all the way? Because I looked at it and I said, there's so many people with this fucking name, all the way from India to the Senegambia region, from the Senegambia region, Africa and Brazil, everybody. There's this person, there's these people with this name entirely, and we have no relation at all. African millennial, what relation do I have to have a name with an Indian, similar with an Indian from India? What cultural relation do we have? You understand? Apart from a colonizer's name and all that stuff. So that really got me thinking. As I something has to be done about it. I say, and here I am. I know my ancestral name. So one day I think I'm gonna reclaim that name back and make it very official. And then my family will carry on that way with the ancient name. You understand what I'm saying?
No, yeah, I completely understand.
It's a thing. Do you have a European name or is it an African name?
Yeah, my first name is a European name. It's a name from the Bible.
Oh, it's from the Bible. Okay, it's
Yeah.
from the Bible. Okay. So this is some of those signs, isn't it? Like it gives you that feeling of like being what do you call it? Being possessed or not being possessed. It denotes ownership. It denotes ownership, right? Having to wear a different culture or something. Oh man, this could be used against me. It denotes that you're being owned, your ownership from that. You know, because the name doesn't originate from you, the language doesn't originate from you. It denotes some kind of subservience. Do you understand? Africa, go on. Sorry.
I don't really have anything much to. Well, I love the point of changing our keeping at least our names. Like if we can't change anything, it's our name. You know, back in the days, guess what? I attempted changing my name. I even did it. So on my BEC certificate, when I was going to register, I went to lie that my name. I wanted to change my Christian name, and I don't even want to use any Muslim name either because there are people from my other side that are Muslim and some are Christian, and so all of them gave me names. So I said, I know I'm not gonna use none of that. I'm gonna use my traditional name. And so all my traditional name, guess what? When I got to school, that's when it started. They'll call me and they'll say, am I traditionalist? Do I practice voodoo? Do I practice am I in any gang cult or Krobo cult? You know, why didn't I have a Christian name? And kind of it was hard, like where everybody's like Jones and Stevens, Andrew, and all those fancy English names. So I was like, I don't want people to be questioning me about my religion. I even heard that maybe if you are applying for a job, sometimes they might even ask you because they do here. I mean, discrimination is rampant in Africa. Everybody knows that.
Even in Africa.
Yeah.
If you have an African name, they discriminate against you.
Yeah, they might ask you a question about whether you are a Christian or not, and it's not related to the jobs, but these are questions that they ask at the job interview. They ask you what's your religion or religious denomination or whatever group you are from, you know, which is crazy. But at the end of the day, that's one of that part of their requirement to cut down people and stuff like that. So I saw that let me just bring the name back in, and so I brought this name, and I'm so shy. I up to this day I still get a little bit shy mentioning my English name because it's very common, and a lot of people out there that have the same name, and I just don't like it. No.
You see what I mean? Yeah, it's a bit strange, isn't it? That how people from all over the world have these kind of random names that they have nothing to do with and all that kind of stuff. So to me, it's a bit weird and all that stuff. So are we knowing that? Are we gonna let our original names go to death and all that stuff and just have that complete family disappear or something? Or do you reclaim it or somewhere down the line? You know, it's very important, you know, Africa, very, very important to reclaim your original name, you know. So yeah, I think I'm gonna have to. Yeah, I don't know what relationship do I have with an Indian, who has the same surname as me. Good.
Yeah. So I normally ask this question like, why do the foreigners or the invaders or the colonizers or the Europeans, why do they force our forefathers and great grandparents to, in general, to adopt their versions of names, right? Why? What's the motive behind it? Because I don't get it. Africans will never ever force anybody out there to adopt any other people's names or to adopt their names. Like, I've never seen it before. The African will be like, oh, today you are no more, you will not be Melissa or Hayford anymore. You will now be called Aku, or you'll be called Juro or whatever. They wouldn't do that. So why these are questions that I always ask myself.
I think it's a means to kind of, back then it was a way, there's the level of religion, Christendom. It has to do with either Christendom. If you're Christian, they tell you this is your Christian name. And then for Muslims as well, they change their names into and add a Muslim twang to it as well. There's that, but all of it denotes a culture of some kind of ascendancy into the dominant culture. And in Africa at that time, colonialism was the dominant culture. Your European colonial was the dominant culture. So if you wanted to climb the ranks, you wanted to have a name that kind of showed that you're ascending into this kind of colonial system as well. So it just progressively started. And obviously Europeans were associated with being more advanced, bringing an advanced religion, bringing an advanced faith with advanced technology and a wealthier lifestyle. So in a way, it kind of encouraged these people to say, if I wanted to improve, I have to try to be more like the white man. I have to speak like the white man. I have to take on the white man's name. I have to speak I have to speak in the white man's language. So it's all those things being repeated. And from their side, it denotes possession.
Yeah. Actually, do you remember even some of our parents do like it when they read, maybe some of them read geography or something and they find some foreign name like Archimedes or Archimedes, Mendeleev, and they'll give those names to some of their children, and those names tend to be very popular. Like,
it's one of the first
Yep, I have a friend. His name is Diego, and it was named after Diego Maradona. So your name is named after a soccer player.
Oh, soccer player, but the Diego, that one we know where it comes from, right? We know where it comes from. It's
Where does it come from?
Yeah, it's Diego. If you can say that's innocent, right? But for people who go out their way to name their kids after European names, just as a means to climb social ladder or as a means to show that they're intelligent or something, that is a bit of a foul play there and all that kind of stuff, right? So it's a bit silly. It's a bit silly. We are trapped in this kind of romanticism with Europeans, all the stuff. We romanticize about everything they do. You understand? Romanticize everything they do. They from their food, everything is better.
Absolutely. 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 It's not the same because, I live in Canada. I don't see people going out of their way to eat African food. It's usually if they have an African friend or they're in the Afrobeat scene, then they'll eat African food, but it's not the same way that an African, let's say living in their own country, will eat spaghetti. But it's like, will an Italian eat your food, but you're eating their food?
It gives those feelings. It does give those feelings. Africa, you must understand it very well right now. Like in Africa right now, everything that's European is kind of like exalted to a certain level, and everything African is kind of. You must understand that. You must experience it daily.
The Dominion pizza, the KFC, everything foreign is like, that's where we are going. It's like they add some level of prestige.
Everything foreign is better. Is that what you're saying? Everything foreign.
Yes, even the educated people act like that, you know. Everything that's foreign, everything that's more superior. But look,
Yes. There's something embarrassing about this as well. The most embarrassing one is Nigerians trying to speak with an American accent. African or Ghanaians or Africans trying to speak with an American accent. Oh my days, that's embarrassing. What do you think about that Afro school?
you know what? With that, some of the, if like I know you that you've been there before, or you, some people like it, accent that changed. Like I myself, like because I talk with some, I've been talking with people who are now mostly Ghanaian, so it's like even right now when I'm speaking, Ghanaian, fellow Ghanaian will be like, no, you are not sounding much like us. It's like you are, and I'm like, yeah. So I, you know, sometimes the language they change. Language will be change anytime. But sometimes, like if the person really pretends, like the person they try to do that, they should say that, oh, they are so, you know, they are very or highly educated. Like, you know, when a person brings out that kind of accent, because they feel like if they speak in that accent, then they are highly educated or they'll be highly recommended or regarded. That is where the problem lies. I don't like that.
I see. It's to denote some level of yes, of course, some languages or some accents have been stupefied as well. And some accents have been stupefied. Like if you have a foreign accent that doesn't sound pure BBC type of accent, you know, people don't tend to look at what you're saying with much, you understand me? They tend to kind of like blank. We know some people that do that. We know some people that kind of do that kind of accentism as well, and that's a reality. Accentism is a reality. And as you see, you know, it's a reality even in other spaces and all that. It almost in everywhere. Oh my days, I can't believe it. You know what I mean?
People want to hear, you know, imagine your voice in somebody else, like some famous newscaster's voice right now.
Yeah.
Just like that, your team be everything just like that. You know how many people will just tune in just because, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe there is a magic about that.
And also after millennial, you see those African news readers as well.
Yeah.
How they change the accent. The news readers. Those were
Yeah,
so funny.
I hear a lot of them. They sound like they're British, and I'm like, I don't think you went to school there or lived there. So why are you trying to sound British when you're in Africa? I don't get it.
That's how they got the job in the first place. So if you don't, a lot of people cannot speak like them. So at the end of the day, they have to feature. They have to pick people who actually sound like British or American. That's why when you see the media, you know, it's a way to select people, you know, and the original people are.
But all that, man, all that just it denotes some level of. But then again, it all starts with speaking another person's language, right? So that's where it starts from. Because this person's language now is the language of science, business, commerce, almost everything, research, philosophy, all of that. So the language suddenly becomes associated with intelligence as well, or having intelligence or philosophy. The language becomes associated with all those things that help a man develop as well. So in a way, the more you speak that language, the more it seems like you have developed on all that. So it seems like you understand what I mean. And to a certain extent, I suppose these languages are kind of very business-oriented languages, so they are good. If somebody can speak the language fully, understanding the context, that's a great thing. But a bunch of people just it's embarrassing. So can we really fault them so much as well? In a way, I think I hate things when they are fake. I hate when things are fake. Me, I'm averse to fakeness and all that kind of stuff. So that's what is I don't like. But if it's genuine, if it's a genuine accent that somebody has, and it's like that, then fine, I'll let you be. You understand? But if I feel that somebody's faking the accent and all that stuff, it just puts me off. It puts me off in a way and all that kind of stuff. So as I say, for me, my accent is all over the place. It's just all over. I've been speaking multiple different languages over time. Yes, sir. So But yeah, it's an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's an embarrassment.
I don't think that a lot of Africans have sat down and I guess they don't care. That's just the fact. Because, I mean, other African countries, even within the same continent, they don't have these problems because they realized, okay, this wasn't our culture, so we're going to try to go back as much as possible.
Mm.
But then you have these other Africans who just seem to say, okay, well, the British culture is better than ours anyway. So
That's
what we have to do.
That's the admission there, African millennial. That's the admission, and that's what it means. And I'll tell you, a lot of people a lot of people don't give a fuck, and they don't care
Yeah,
if
they
you
don't.
tell them otherwise. Yeah, they just have this nonchalant, I don't care what you say, this is what it is, and all the time. And who are you to change them and all that stuff? Right? So it's a case of adapting to the culture and all that stuff, but adapting and killing yourself. But how much? There's many ways you can adapt. There's changing the accent. That many ways of killing your inner personality. And as you say, had you gone around faking with those people in the snow rink and all that kind, in the snow rink and hockey and all these kind of sports over there, you would have killed your inner self and all that stuff. You would have been. That's not a state. That's not a fine state to be in, African millennial, right? Like if you expose that's not a fine state to be in. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
because at that point I felt like if I wanted to fit in, I would have to do those things to fit in. But I didn't care to fit in. I just simply felt out of place. And it was okay, well, I need to move from here then. Like I can't sit and live here because who would I be interacting with? It would be them.
Yeah.
And then I'd have to do their things to be part of their crowd.
Yeah,
So
I've seen examples of black people that have gone that way as well, completely adapted the culture. On for my analysis of them, I don't think they were adjusted African millennial. You understand? Like black people that have lived amongst white people for the rest of their life and all that kind of stuff. They're not adjusted correctly. Maybe they be adjusted to something else. I don't know, but they don't come out much quite adjusted. And I don't necessarily have a problem with them, but also there's a lot of concessions you have to make. Yeah, I've lived in Hawaii. I've lived in the white area, African millennial and all that. And yes, first you want to look at it as a novelty, being the only black guy around and all that kind of stuff. But then by that time you start to look at it, you know what I mean? You are not fully living your full life. You understand? You're not living yourself entirely. You're living limitedly or something. You're quite limited in a way, and you're not being living your authentic life or you understand your best life. That's why that's why you can see Dr. Kezo saying he's back in Africa. He's having the best time in his life, even though there's so much shit and all that stuff. But he's having the best time in his life. You understand what I'm saying? Because he's moved away to a place that gives him more abundance in life. Do you understand? So if you had to live in those kind of confined spaces of how and who you should be, that wouldn't have resulted very well. And that's why you see these kind of confused people walking around and all that stuff. I have heard to learn and respect the place that I have with. Obviously, I don't hang around with the Pookies and Ray Rays, but there's some good black people that are quite well adjusted. You understand what I mean? That I hang around with. So I've had to find my place, then and I hang around with them and all that stuff. We move into doing business with them, and we all know our place in this society. It's not a case of we know how much we know what we're doing, and we're doing very right. So I've had to learn to respect that a lot more. You know what I mean? Find yourself in your black group and be with them and all that stuff. Don't try to kill yourself and all that stuff. You know what I mean? Don't try to kill yourself, because all that stress at the end of the day will result to you kind of shortening your life span. You understand?
I agree. Because I guess the aim of a lot of black people and immigrants is to leave the hood, like leave the area where a lot of black people are essentially. But then when you do leave, who are you surrounded by? Because if you go to these really posh neighborhoods, I don't see people. Okay, let's say if I'm talking about the hood or area that's not that rich, it's not uncommon to see even women wear their bonnets, to wear headbands, to just look, I guess, more natural and cozy. But then if you go to a super posh area and you dress like that, then you stand out.
Yeah, you
That's
do
not how
stand out.
people dress around there. Like, your hair
There's
has to be
a
done. You have to
disadvantage.
wear smart clothes. You can't just look any way over there.
Yeah. What do you mean? Do you say you have to wear smart clothes when you live in posh areas and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, you can't really wear hoodies and all that stuff too much.
Yeah, but yeah, I suppose you have to look apart. I didn't mind that. I didn't care. I found myself alone in the only village in a village in England, right? The only black guy walking around and all that stuff. I was like, one black guy in a village in England and all that stuff. Yeah, obviously there's some things that I liked about that time. As in, I liked the ambience. I looked at it as a kind of ambience, and I enjoyed it because I was riding a motorbike all around. I ride a motorbike all around the Surrey area and all that stuff. So all the villages over there. But of course, I do stand out. But because of that, I was a bit brazen about it. So I really didn't care. Oh, Rifleman is here. I was just about to mention his name. I was just about to mention his name when I was hey, Rifleman, welcome. I was just about to give an example of Rifleman.
Okay, well, go ahead. You might as well give it now then.
I will give the example, but let me finish what I say. So I lived in an English village and all that stuff. But African millennial, I kind of embraced the role of being the only black guy in that place. So so sometimes I will dress immaculate. I just like to surprise people. You know what I'm saying? So I'll be walking through the woods and forests and looking immaculate. I dress nice and all that. And sometimes I come out a bit rough and all that stuff. I didn't care. I just like seeing the impression that I make and all that. I like to shock. I like to have that shock effect and all that stuff. You know what I mean? So, but for some people, it's kind of like a problem for them. Like, you will have people like Jude. You know what I mean? Jude. I live in Utah, mate. I live in Utah, Salt Lake City, and all that kind of stuff. You can see the result. And you got people like Rifleman, who lives in Rifleman. Wherever you live and all that stuff, you can know Rifleman and his kind of group what it is. You know what I mean? Africa. So
Come on, you know where he lives. He talks about it all the time.
He talks about his guns all the time.
He lives in Oregon.
Oh,
Portland.
Oregon.
Well, maybe not Portland, but Oregon for sure.
Well, I lived in Portland for 6.5 years downtown, and I had to escape the hell out of there.
I see. But Rifleman looks like the type of guy that has a lot of white, right-wing Republican friends around him, isn't it? Like Rifleman.
And is there something wrong with that?
No, I'm not judging, but I'm just saying. So, African millennial, what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, you can see a kind of pattern in, if they are not kind of well balanced as well or something, they can develop a kind of pattern in which are they well adjusted or something like that. You understand what I'm saying? So living in such an environment can cause such an effect, or it can cause a different effect if you look at it differently. You understand what I mean? So maybe perhaps for Rifleman, he came out very pro-black and pro. I don't know. He doesn't sound the most pro-black, but anyways, you know.
Well, my journey is a little different because people have been calling me white my whole life because, for one, I spoke proper English, and then two, I don't engage in some behaviors that quote unquote people say are black in North America or whatever. And so I've always had kind of complicated relationship with my identity when it comes to being a black American, or what it means to be a black American or whatever. Mm-hmm. And that's always kind of played out amongst our people. I don't know if African millennial knows anything about that, because I think she's, you're like American Westerner, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you kind of know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I know exactly what
yeah. So me, I've always kind of like more or less been pushed towards white people for whatever reason, and there's been, and I kind of in a way I'm glad, because it helped me see, you know, like my mom, she struggled with substance abuse, and like certain people in my family that had certain behaviors that would be negative towards me as a young child. So I was lucky enough to have a few people in my family that were like actually competent adults, and you know, and like I said, you know, they made me read every night and do stuff like that, to where they knew as a young Black boy they wanted people to take me seriously. So they didn't allow me to do certain stuff to where because white people know when they after certain seconds of talking to a Black person, they know whether they're gonna not like them or not, or they're gonna put us in a box, you know. And so and it's complicated too, because you know, white people run the gambit of racist to like, they don't know they're racist to like they're actually genuinely good people. So when they come across a Black person that's well dressed, well spoken, and genuine, and not the negative stereotype they've been led to believe about us, they treat you a lot differently, for better or for worse. That's just how it is. And so how I came into my quote unquote Blackness is because I started seeing a trend of Black people in America just distancing themselves from like everything African. And I've never more or less cared about it. I'm just going to be honest. Like, I had negative connotations about Africa, but more or less I didn't care about Africa. And that's most Black Americans. Hold on, let me finish, and I'll let you talk. And so me, I didn't care. But then when I started noticing like nationalism is rising everywhere, old ethnic divisions are kind of rising in certain parts of the world. People are becoming more conscious of like where they come from and where their lineage comes from and all that. So I'm like, you know, I'm like, well, for one, I'm like, I know I come from West Africa. Like, my lineage comes from West Africa, even though my father is Jamaican, whatever. But at the end of the day, we all know where the hell we come from. So I started just looking into information and you know, reading history, because before I know European and Asian history like the back of my freaking hand. And ever since then, I'm like, okay, well, if I say I'm a student of history, it's, you know, a disservice to me. You know, not only am I Black, but there's a whole wide continent of history for thousands of years that's like literally untouched. So I've went and you know, connected with that, and I'm like, wow, you know, there's a lot of stuff I didn't know, and my preconceived notions about Africa have been kind of washed away. And so I'm like motivated now, because I'm like, you know, I'm a part of some of these people, and that's why I'm going back to the continent. And it's not I'm on some we the best blackity black like some Black Americans trying to kind of overcompensate for whatever reason. I'm just, you know, more nuanced with it. So I don't know. I don't know. There's a way you can go about going to Africa and not being like crazy about going to some Black utopia or whatever.
Right. Well, so I guess I can see, Rival Man, you I don't know how your life started or something. It might have started quite badly, but I suppose you see the positives, at least in what living in a kind of stable environment provided you and all that kind of stuff. So you had that stable environment and you appreciate that as well. But don't you feel that it's something to really put a finger on or question if you have to change yourself a certain type of way to be accepted? Don't you think that's a bit that there's no respect to the level of relationship you have, that you have to change yourself in a certain behavior to be accepted?
I'm gonna have to disagree, because for one, okay, we have to accept the fact, like, America is a Eurocentric society. They have a way that they go about society. Okay, that's number one. So there's standards that are already set that white people have to adhere to. And I don't think it's evil or outside the expectation to say, hey, Black people should act accordingly. Now, there's a difference between white people saying we can't do any displays of Africanness or wear Kuta Kente cloth or whatever. That's, if they say we can't do that, that's a little crazy, okay, and that's wrong. But there's you know, like etiquette and, you know, just general societal stuff. I don't think it's like us erasing, quote unquote, who we are or bowing down to the white man. It's just like, it's the white man's society. So if he says, you know, this is how the general in general and a citizen is supposed to act, I don't think that's like a bad thing. So that's not like changing necessarily when that was already the standard. what I'm seeing now from our people is we're engaging, or we're conditioning our young children to engage in antisocial behavior, and then when there's consequences or the general public doesn't accept it, we try to brush that off as racism, or they're trying to target us. You know what I'm saying? So that's that, and I see that a lot. But I see both sides, you know, like, yes, there's a visceral, like, anti, like, blackness when I say that, like, nobody wants to see, like, African sculptures in general, you know, because it's a white country.
But with etiquette, there could be different types of etiquette, you know? But I suppose you're right. In America, it's predominantly a white-dominated society. The whites are the hierarchy, so they set the standards of what the upper class culture has to be as well. So I suppose, you know, in a way, but you don't necessarily have to be like that entirely and all that stuff. But
No, well, I mean, okay, I'll tell you right now, the white people I get along with the most, or I identify with the most, are middle class working, like, white people. I have nothing in common with super rich white people, you know, like people that make millions and millions of dollars a year. I know a couple of people that make white people that make that much money, but at heart, they're blue collar Americans. They just happen to have some money.
You see, Rifleman, I will tell you the truth, right? This is how I find white people. That they don't, like, yes, there's this, you have to be like, I don't think I care. I think you really need to look at them for who they are as people. Judge everyone as simple. I'm rich white people, stupendously rich people and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't care how rich you are. I will treat you the way you are expected to be treated, like a person. And I will slap the shit out of you.
Well,
Sorry,
what I'm saying, you don't, but the thing about it, most rich people are people that are well off, or you don't have to even have that type of attitude with them. Like, they're most of the time, if they're and okay, hold on. And when I say this, I'm talking about, and this is my experience, most of those people, if you just come at them like normal and you have a couple things in common, they're cool with you. But if me as a black man, if I like black Americans, what?
You shouldn't have to change yourself.
No, I'm not. You're not. Okay, again, it's not changing yourself. If there's a certain standard of etiquette in society and you don't meet it, I don't think that's evil for people to be like, hey, you need to meet the standard. Now, okay, and I'll use this I use antisocial behavior as an example. And this is black women. And sorry, AM, don't come for me, but I'm using this as an example. There is a trope / expectation for black women to be very difficult when it comes to service industry. When I'm talking about waitresses and retail, where people people expect black women to be like loud, disagreeable, try to argue with people over stuff, you know, nitpick. And this comes from other black women. So this isn't just like white people complaining. This is like other black women. You can go on TikTok, you can go on YouTube. There's multiple black women that are saying the demographic of people that are hardest to service are black women. So these types of things that we engage, this isn't white people saying you need to change. This is like you're going outside the norm of what we like and expect. So that's not racist. That's not telling people to change. That's just like, dude, just get with the standard. Okay.
Rifleman, you know, I understand what you're saying. Like, I guess actually, you see, Rifleman, yes, there is such a stereotype that's pushed around about black Americans, which is completely propagated. It's a stereotype propagated.
No, some of it, no, hold on. Some of it actually, we actually fulfill some of those stereotypes. The stereotypes would not come out of nowhere.
There is the other side of the coin, Rifleman, in which you find good church-going black American women, really good, wholesome church-going black American women that don't display that attitude. They don't display that thing, and there are many of them. So why isn't that
where they at? Okay, black American, please tell me, with all these conservative, demure women with their natural hair, you know, they're even killed. They don't. They're not loud. They're respectful to their men. They let men lead them. Where, I want to see like where the places where they're like 7 out of 10 black women. I want to see this place, because if this place existed, I'd live there.
You will find them if you went to a black American church. You will find this good, wholesome. But since you have not been exposed to black American,
they're having shootouts in black churches.
You have been to black churches, and you
I
think they're
used to
all
live in Atlanta, dude. I lived
okay.
around black people. I don't know why people try to. Okay, look, I grew up around black people. I joined the military. Obviously, that's around mostly white people. But in the intermittent years, I've lived in poor neighborhoods that happen to be predominantly black. Or I lived in Atlanta for many years, where it's predominantly black. And so I've lived in these places. So when people try to make it sound like I'm just, you know, just I hate my people, or I'm just like coming from like, look, I've observed this enough where I've heard other black people say the same thing I say. Okay, so this isn't me piling on black Americans. Me, I refuse to lie for my people. I like I respect the truth.
Yeah, I see what you mean. But a rifleman, here's the thing: when you've been to those black churches and all that stuff, in a church there, do you see them behave in the same ratchet ways?
The black church is the new club. Okay, just like that. It's like it's where like seriously, it's where black men go to scam women. You know, into like. There's so many instances of the pastor sexually exploiting women in the congregation, siphoning off money, or you know, there's other scandals where they, you know, they're freaking LGBTQ exploiting, you know, so you know they store.
You just can't give your people a break.
Stop saying that, Darth. Stop saying that to me, man. I give the people who deserve a break. They already have a break because they doing what they're supposed to do. They don't have to worry about me coming for them. Okay, black people that are successful and doing the right thing, they're not be like, oh, what this dude say about me on the internet. Only people that get threatened with that are people that either they know somebody's doing that or they're doing it themselves. Most black people that are prosperous, doing the damn thing, taking care of their families, they don't get outraged on the internet about somebody. You know what I'm saying? Because they're too busy being productive.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of them that are like that, and they're not necessarily white. You know, they express themselves in their entire blackness. They're not necessarily trying to be a white guy. You know what I'm saying? You've met the Brian,
Oh, somebody. Hold on. We have I think she's Black American female, and please come on the panel, sweetheart. Synovia Ridley. Look, Atlanta is a war zone. It's not safe. It's not safe. It's not safe.
But Rifleman, let me give you our experiences of white people, right? It's different, right? You live in a white area, I live in a white area. So let me give you my experience of white people, right? So even though I was the black guy with the thickest accent, I was very tall and dark and handsome and all that stuff. So, you know, all the women drop their hats and all that stuff. They drop their hats when I started coming by. And I ride the motorbike as well. So Rifleman, I had all that. But what I'm saying, Rifleman, what I'm saying is, I think white people most of the time, they don't really give a shit about where you come from or how you sound like. They care about what you can do for them. That's what I found in my experience. They care about what
exactly. Yes.
What you can really do as well and all that stuff. How you sound like, yes, in certain circles it matters and all that stuff in certain circles, but it's up to you what you want and all that stuff.
Well, so, okay, hold up. Most white people are conditioned to identify low-class black people.
But Darth, do you disagree a lot with what Rifleman's saying? Because I agree a lot with what he's saying. I wouldn't use the same terms because that's just me. Like that's just how I speak. But I agree with a lot of what he's saying. Like black people everywhere need to do better at all. Like they're not doing good. The average black person, wherever they're from, for Africa, or they're from America, they're from the Caribbean. Like, look at these black countries; they're horrible.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying, but they not the countries in per se. Let's not look at the country. We're looking at the
right.
black people as
the people who run
right?
them.
So
Yeah.
As a collective, we do very badly, but as individuals. They think so. It's not an absolute thing, right? So if you come at it from an absolutist point of view and say, "Oh, Black Americans that is," but we've seen examples that not all of them. Like, we've seen examples where, in fact, recently the other day I saw on TikTok, a Black American community came and they building a nice Black community area, very fancy, looks very well. So there are productive Black
But
American.
I
So
think,
you just
see,
be
this is
careful how
the
you paint
problem.
it.
The productive people are not the ones that are being promoted, right?
That's what I'm
It's
saying.
the degenerates that are being promoted.
That's what I'm saying. I agree with the degenerates. I agree.
So,
There's a
Darth. So this is
hold
hold
on,
on, Darth.
Rifleman.
No, let me just
Control
add a little bit
yourself.
to what she said. Hold on, let me add a little. And so this is the reason why when I say what I say, there's more pushback against what I say than other stuff. You should be agreeing with me, saying, yeah, like we should be all in agreement. And when we see actual coon anti-black shit, which is non-productive antisocial behavior, we should be calling that out, but we don't. We celebrate it. Even black people that are doing well in certain instances, and mostly it's elite, the super rich, because they can control us. They want, like, okay, prime example, like you see that woman Sierra, she's married with kids, super rich, never has to worry about anything, and she's telling young black girls to be hoes. She's telling all girls to be hoes, but primarily she's like literally saying, live your whole life. You don't ever have to get married, but she's sitting up there with a multi-million-dollar husband. You know what I'm saying? Like this is what our elites do. You know what I'm saying? But if AM went on primetime television and said, you know, your value as a woman is tied to your sexual promiscuity, and men will take that into consideration, they're gonna fucking yell at her and call her a pick me mammy. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what happens in our community.
Yeah, I get you, Rifleman. I understand the degeneracy part of the
So
culture.
then we win. I win.
And that's what
Then I
we're
win.
calling out. Yeah, that's what we're calling out. That's what the show is. But what I'm saying, Rifleman, is
So why
the
you
way
keep
you do it.
adding?
No, I'm saying you're saying it in such an absolutist way, as if
Because we live in absolutist times. What are you talking about? Like there's no there's a competition worldwide between everybody, and they ain't fucking around with their people that ain't trying to do right.
Darth. Okay, let me tell you the reason why I agree with Reichman. Not everything, but actually, like I'll say 90% of
Brian
everything.
is like that.
The reason why I agree though is because black people
I
everywhere
know
should
Nadim
not be
is a
slacking.
degenerate, but Brian is
Wait,
not.
wait. I'm not finished. Black people everywhere should not be slacking. Black people should be working harder than the Asians. They should be working harder than everybody else, but they're not. They're just complacent everywhere. Every single country. I'm not even in. If you notice, I don't speak about America much because what's happening in America is happening outside of America too, in other black
It is happening. I
countries.
see the degeneracy being exported all around the world and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Even people who you thought were kind of like very good natured, you know, like Somalians are starting to change to this Black American culture. Somalians are starting to change too. Yes, I mean, but Rifleman, it's not all the same. You understand? Say it, Rifleman. There's still some good communities of Black American cultures out there, and they still
Yeah, and
contribute.
guess what? We are not trying to grow that. Like, look, there's 50 states in America where we have all these black communities, and literally there's only like, okay, there's one black man that I know of. There's a couple of them, but I'm just using this young black man as an. He's like 22, 23 years old, literally taking young black boys from single mother households, and every day he's saying, hey, this is how you change a tire on a car. This is how you manage your finances. He takes willing young boys. Now, mind you, these boys are willing, okay? Because their mom probably cares enough to push them towards a black man that's worth a damn. So they're doing these activities, they're gaining skills, and they're being marketable in the freaking global marketplace, okay? This is what works. But guess what? We don't give him money. We don't put him on all social media. What we have is the shade room. What we have is BET, owned by white people, that will not put this boy on their screens everywhere. What we have are buffoons running around pranking people and eating big burritos and grabbing girls' asses on social media. That's what black people consume. So we can't keep saying it's the white man when we literally hate what works. We don't even like me. I put it on my social media. I gave money to him. I got white people to donate to this brother. Okay, I'm done with the excuses. I'm done with people telling me you can't say that about our people. That's mean. I'm done with that shit.
But isn't the blame to do with like the top elites who are promoting this culture instead of you coming from another side and exalting the positive attributes of your culture? Isn't it that you should focus on if you didn't have the power to change what's been promoted? Instead, what you can do at least promote or exalt what the positive side of Black American culture. That's what
But
I'm
I
saying.
get called a coon by my own people all the time.
But Dark does have a point though, because even though we're talking about it doesn't get promoted, but they don't control what is on TV or what the media, like they don't even control the music industry, for instance. So
Okay, they will sell what we consume. If we literally, they have focus groups. Okay, corporations, this is their lifeblood. They'll have a focus group on what the target consumer is consuming, and literally, if there's a switch where, well, we had that trap music that was really fire, but the thing about it is the lyrics, they're not liking the lyrics. They want to talk more about like having stuff and owning shit and stuff like that. So we got to get young blah 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 to be talking about that shit. You know what I'm saying? That's the guy we're gonna sign. So they're gonna sell what we want. If we want degeneracy, they're gonna give it to us 5,000 max. So we can't say, oh, we don't control anything. Yes, we do. We control purse strings all over the damn economy.
Yes, of course.
okay, all right, Dark, we're gonna let Synovia go ahead. Let the
Welcome,
ladies
sister.
speak.
Welcome.
Let the ladies speak.
Oh no, I was
Thank you.
just saying welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, African Millennium, for having me on your platform.
Thank you for calling.
Yeah, Rifleman, he inspired me to call. But I wanted to say, Rifleman, you make a lot of good points. You really do, concerning our people. I mean, the younger generation, social media, they're just hypnotized. I'm not making excuses for them because I'm in my 40s now, so I know that technology was not as advanced as it is now. But when I was growing up, we didn't have I didn't have technology like that, you know. So we played outside. We 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 did those things. We were outside playing. But now the technology is every household pretty much in America. Even the poor people, they have technology. So and unfortunately, the parents, they're on social media as much as the kids are. It's unfortunate. And I'm talking about my community now. Okay, so it leaves us, including yourself, Rifleman, in a predicament where we're fighting hard. We're fighting harder to try. There's a lot of African Americans in America who's really fighting hard. We have to give credit because I'm one of them. I mean, because I see it every day. I get it, Rifleman. I'm in Atlanta. Okay, I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. I've been here for a long, long, long time. Okay, and I'm ready to go. But there's a lot of good things going on in Atlanta too. There's a lot of good things. I mean, Black people are building. They're taking control of a lot of things here. Because I've been to certain places in America, and I'm like, where are the Black people with the suits on, and where are the Black people with the? Because here you see, I mean, they're dressing, they're sharp, There's a lot of good things going on here in Atlanta where I don't see it in other places. But there's a lot of bad things going on here too. There's more people moving here, thousands and thousands of people moving here constantly. Okay, so when you got more people, it's gonna be more crime. Okay, it's a lot of people here, which pretty much I'm ready to to move out of Atlanta because of the flux of people moving in. Okay? So it's a lot of good things. I mean, it's Black people here, they're doing a lot, but we have to take control of our economy. See, that's the issue. We're not taking control of our economy. You know, I think that all Black people, we should have a state of our own. We should have Georgia. We should have control of Florida. You know, we need some states where we have control of the government and the economy. It's 54 states here, 56. We could at least have 2. We don't have that. So we have a lot of work to do. You know, Atlanta, you know, you got Tyler Perry, we need to pool our monies together and build. We're not linking the people that's doing things here in America. We're not linking our funds together. Open up a credit union, something, pooling our money together. But social media, you can use it to your advantage, or it can work against you. And the young people is working against a lot of young people and older people too. That's immature. Okay, it starts in the household. Everything starts in the household. Okay,
But
when you're at home, the parents teach their children what's going on the outside, what not to do. And when the children go on the outside, they're prepared for the external. But that's not happening within the household. I can't speak for all households. Some households, it's happening. Yes, it is. But most households of our community, it's not happening. It's a lot of chaos within the household. So they got chaos in the household. It's going to be chaos in their world. It's our responsibility as adults to shape our children's minds. And when the adult mind is not shaped, how can the child mind become shaped? And when social media is controlling them. The parents have more power than social media, but the power is in the social media hands because of parents. The parents are having babies 15, 16, all these young ages, and they're not married. You could be 15 and 16 to have a baby out. So be it, as long as you're married. My parents married when they was 19, but they were married. When you're out here just making babies, that's a problem. And when that's a problem, it just like it snowballs. And this is what we got now. Boys, they don't have their fathers. The men are most incarcerated. So they don't have their fathers. They're incarcerated for little bitty stuff. For marijuana. And now marijuana is legal for the white people. It's just unfair. It's not right. Okay? They have dispensaries now where white people can sell marijuana. Where our men are in prison and jail for little small amounts. So we can't put it all on our people. We have been dealt a bad hand. We have. From the beginning. But we can't make excuses either. So it's up to us. and it's not happening like it should. That's why I say I'm moving out of America and I'm moving to Africa. Because at least in Africa, all the commercials are not trying to program the children with things that's going on that shouldn't be going on. These commercials, the same sexes and everything together and all that. No, that shouldn't be forced down our children's throat.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, it's played back and forth. It's not only us, it's American society also. And we got to stop looking at our people. And
You hear the
because,
rifleman? That's a good black American woman.
and we can't
I
look down on
never
our people.
said Black American women are the worst,
You didn't say
but we
the
have
best.
problems. That's all.
We do have issues. Yes, we do. But I'm never going to look down on my people, ever. I'm never going to do that. Mm-mm.
Rifleman, I know there's a difference. The Naknizi types, those are dusty degenerates and all that. And then you hear the Brian, the estate agent types and all that. Can't you see there's a difference there? You yourself, you know that. And you choose which ones you associate with. I don't associate with some dusty roadmen in the UK over here. I've got no time for that, Rifleman. You know what I mean? Those roadmen, all I see, they're just ready to just get you out of trouble. So you choose which. And in the white community, there's some dusty rednecks that are good for nothing.
Yeah,
And
that's why they live in their own communities. They don't fuck with them. But black people, we let in. Like, if somebody, like, that's why we say Pookie and Ray Ray and Cousins and them, because we, for lack of a better term, tether ourselves unnecessarily to people who are not doing right, because for the sake of solidarity. You see what I'm saying? And it's a mistaken thing that we need to get away from.
Yeah. So I suppose to a certain extent, like you need to kind of create an environment like that where you have a safe, which is good. I think that's happening now, Rifleman, and I think there's a lot more savvy, tech savvy, business savvy young black American. I think the next generation will be different. There's a lot of them are getting into tech, and a lot of them are getting into good jobs and all that stuff. You know, America is about what you can do, not what you appear to be like or what you. It's about what you can do for the white man.
I have to go. Thank you, guys. This has been a great panel. Hopefully I can get back on, but I have to go, like, emergency, like right now. All right. I'll see you guys later.
Take care.
Thank you. But I definitely would like to revisit this.
All right.
Yeah, we definitely can.
You know what I'm saying? You see, African millennial, you see, people have this notion that you have to be white. I don't think white people even like that. They don't like it. They find you to be a caricature when you try to imitate them or something. It's funny. It's funny to them. You find you to be a caricature. So what your focus should be on is what you can actually do. It's not even it's not even being able to do for the white man. It's just any natural relationship with a human being. Relationships are built upon what you can do for me, what I can do for you. Fine, be it black or white or anything. That's how it is. You understand what I mean? And white people, when it comes down to the crux of it, it's like, I don't care how much you flatter me with your attitude and your accent and your behavior and your decorum. I don't care how much you flatter me. Can you do something for me? You understand? That's what matters. And that's what people should focus their energies on. What can you do for the other person? You focus on that, and then maybe the aesthetics, the aesthetics matter later on. Knowing how to dress, how to do that, they matter. But really and truly, anybody will take you if you can do shit for them, if you can do something for them. You understand? So I think you will have your priorities wrong when you focus on building other things and all that kind of building, trying to assimilate to a culture that, you know what I'm saying, killing yourself in the process. You know, so that's where I come from and all that stuff. So that's why I look at all this as a bit silly. You understand? There's a lot of people out there with nice British accents and all that kind of stuff. I see them doing dusty, and a lot of people with African accents are doing it. Why? Because they focus on the right priorities. You understand?
Yeah, but the whole but do you think that that whole thing is problematic too? Because I guess there is a thing as acting white, but then I think the lines are blurred because maybe you're not trying to act white, you're trying to act more proper, but then people will say that's acting white.
I find
I
that to
don't
be
know.
silly.
Like, what
I
is that?
find that I find that to be silly. Like, as long as you explain to me what acting white means, why? Why would somebody say that? Why would somebody christen that on themselves? That they behaving properly is acting white. It's like
Yeah.
saying it's like saying white hair is good hair. You understand?
Exactly.
It's like saying white hair is
Exactly.
good hair. Good and bad hair. So it's like acting white and all that stuff. I don't see
There's
that
no
acting
such
white.
thing as good and bad hair.
You get me? There's some dusty like I hang out with my white friend and I let him know all the time, mate. I let you know if I had all the power, man, I would completely raise you. I'm joking. I'm joking. But no, there's just a certain you have to be normal. You can't be putting it up front. And some white people are averse to that. Like they are averse to this kind of fakery that people do and all that stuff. Some people are just naturally like that. So I don't think it's an all out one. Oh, you being white is proper and all that stuff. And you know, that's the bit I disagree with Rifleman there or
Of
something.
course, that's not true.
You know, this association of being proper is right, but then it's not his fault, as he says, when he tries to exalt good Black American behaviors. The rest of the community say, "Oh, you're acting white. You're being proper." Why is that? Why has that propagated in American society? That good hair is white. Why did that happen?
There people I've heard people say that, and they're really ignorant. Ignorant is not a bad word. They're really ignorant, and I've heard that, and I will correct them right then and there.
Yeah.
I said, why do you say that hair is good or bad? It's not a personality. Hair do not have a personality.
It does not.
You know, and I have to question them, and they can't answer it, and it gives them something to think about. I'm like, your hair, this is your hair that you were born with, and your body, you're who you are, and you're uniquely made, you know, and they don't see themselves that way. It's self-hatred.
But where does this self-hatred come from? Because the self-hatred extrudes and exemplifies itself in many ways, which is what we're covering here. Sometimes you change in your accent, sometimes you're changing your behavior, your mannerisms, and all that. This self-hatred, where does it come from? Really, you know what I'm saying?
Well, I'm gonna just be honest with you. Okay. Now, when you're looking at Jesus with his good hair all the time, well, don't you want that also? That's who you're up. That is your Jesus is your you have given your soul to the religion, and what you're looking at is Jesus' hair. You pray to him your whole life. Just imagine if Jesus had kinky hair and afro and all that.
Yeah,
that's what they would want. Religion, and they see that, and then they see the white people on commercials throwing their stringy hair everywhere. Yeah, it's very powerful, extremely.
Yeah, imagery.
Yes.
Yeah, the imagery is powerful there as well. I have to say that as well. Yes, because it's even exemplified in any culture. If somebody was to bring you what is supposed to be a better way to it, the better way of life, bring you a religion, and you are completely to throw your whole soul onto that, of course, you will start to emulate the best of that as well. You understand? So,
of course.
Right. You find it in the Muslim world as well, where Africans who are supposed to be living in the hottest climate in the world are having to wear all these burqas, dark burqas around, wear this dark clothing all around in the continent. I say, no, the Arabs wore that because they live in a desert and they needed to protect their life. So why are you copying everything that comes with them? You know what I'm saying? So
Absolutely.
yeah. It's a thing of signs of what people perceive to be advanced. You know, advanced or development. You know what I mean? So obviously, Europeans had imparted or made an impression on Africans that our religion is more advanced. Why? Look at look at what he has brought us. Look at this wealth we have gained. Look at this technology we've created. So it kind of yeah. Yeah, it kind of creates that inferiority complex building among people, and also it's also shown in it's wealth. If somebody is wealthier than you and all that stuff and has all the amenities that you're lacking, has everything that you want, of course, automatically he will feel superior to you and all that stuff. And if you're not adjusted right, you will think that he's a better person than you if you don't have the right attunement.
All the material things,
All the material things, you know, even if he's a dusty rapper like Young Thug and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
A dusty rapper, Young Thug. If he has all the Bentleys and all that kind of stuff, how can you tell Young Thug you're superior to him? Right?
That's right.
You know, so you can come out and so it's association with wealth and all that stuff in life. And I think Black people have been on the not so receiving end of it, and that's why the inferiority. Because if a Black person is rich just like that, was to wake up and have attain everything, and it's become that Black person doesn't care if a white person told him that I'm better than you.
That's
that
right.
Black person doesn't care if the white person says, "Oh, you have to be white" and all that stuff. No, they don't care. Why? Why do I have? I've gotten to this far, and I've never needed to do that. I've never needed to kowtow to you and all that stuff. Why should I have to be like? So it's to do with a status and class.
That's right.
Status and class in life and all that. And unfortunately, down to an individual level, it's to do with class. Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
But then they connect to the collect. So
you know, it's like we've been on the bottom for so long, and I can kind of get where our people want to be like the others who got things and all this type of stuff. That's, you know, that's I can see. I would never be that way, but I can see with my third eye. I can see, when you can call it a third eye, but I can see where they're trying to emulate or be like the others because they seem to be on top. You know, because if we were on top, it would be the same way for the other people. You know, but we have to. That's not going to get us anywhere. We have to do for ourselves. We've got to start loving ourselves.
At the end of the day, what matters is not what kind of aesthetic you want to wear. It's about what you can do for yourself and do for somebody else. That's what, and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
And this is something that people have to think about and inculcate and all that stuff. Like, you know, yes, of course, to a certain extent, you can pretend all this, but when it comes down to the people, when you pretend to be another person, people just find it as a novelty, as long as you don't affect their bottom line. When it comes to the crux of it, and you're quite dusty, but you put on a good show, a good character, people don't care. They will say, you know what, I enjoyed you, but I don't care. You're not doing it for me. You know that, and that's why I caution Black people with this. Acting white and all that kind of stuff, but I do know the effect it has on some other dusty, because there are dusty people in the world, and that's a reality. You understand? So I can understand why some people will want to give that image, give that aesthetic.
So I've heard people say dusty before. What is that?
I've never used that one, but that one is catching on. That one is catching on. Dusty means somebody that is just useless, doing nothing completely. I suppose it's somebody that's poor and all that kind of stuff. Poor, not doing well in life, just completely useless and something. What do you think, AfriScope? What does dusty mean, if you've heard it so far? AfriScope, are you with us? What does dusty mean?
Let me just turn off this noisy one. Yeah. What's the question?
What does the word dusty mean? Have you heard of the word dusty? Can you explain to us what the word dusty means?
Me, from American families, like when they say somebody is dusty, that means the person is like low IQ. I mean, mostly guys would like to say low IQ, like to it doesn't fit into the a particular class system, and they might say like, oh, that person is low-minded,
But they can't help that though. I mean, I guess.
Listen, Dr. Kazo doesn't care. Dr. Kazo will take a piss out of anybody. If you're dusty, you're dusty. He just doesn't care. That guy.
But when you, I could see somebody being dusty when they're intentional doing harm to someone else, or intentional. Their intentions are not good. But when you're, like you say, poor, sometimes you can't help that. I mean, if you put in a situation, they were put, it's like colonization and just the downtrodden and everything. I don't see that as being dusty. I guess I see dusty as anyone can be dusty of any race.
Yeah.
So we have to take these. We have to take these labels, these negative labels off of us and our people. We have to
someone was trying to hack my account. This is that, like you said, I think first one was on WhatsApp. This person contacted me trying to pretend like it's somebody from your show, and basically trying to ask. They have this way where they kind of like made you to enter your WhatsApp number, and then when your verification code is sent, they will retrieve it to the false website. So I kind of figured out, because I turned off security on my Chrome, and the Chrome detected the website that is a false website. And the second time too, the person went on my Twitter. Actually, about 2 days ago, that was when I saw that, trying to hack into my Twitter account. So this person might be around in the US, I'm sure. Definitely might be in Chicago somewhere, Illinois somewhere, those places. I actually wanted to test this number to you. Maybe you might know the person. Maybe the person tried to do that with you, because it seems the person knows me on your show. Are you there?
Yeah, you can send me the number. I can look and see. I wonder who's doing that.
That is dusty. I call that dusty, because this is this is like an African behaving like that.
that's dusty.
If that person's from Kentucky, then I might know who that is. It's probably the person who tried to get Kaizo.
Oh, that is dusty. That is dusty. Is this on the same group chat or something? African American, the same WhatsApp or something? He tried to hack you, eh? That's dusty. That's dusty.
You might have picked my. Okay, I don't know. My number is always on YouTube and stuff like that. But who knows? The person.
Yeah, you have to put your security to consideration here, man. You can't trust anybody. There's hackers. There's different kinds of people in this place. You really have to be careful who you exchange your contacts and details with and all that stuff. And you don't want, you don't want people to get access to your information. Otherwise, it can just be bad for you, especially if you have been saying a whole lot of smack on these kind of things. You wanna maintain your anonymity and all that stuff. So but yeah,
I'm just afraid that they don't get the contact details of my people, the people I'm close with. Maybe they might try to mount an attack on them, asking them for favors or asking them for things, on pretending to be me, which I don't do, And I told people, like I have in my circle, that this is what is going on.
So you sent out a broadcast. You broadcast to people that this is
I've never had a chance. Yeah.
Right. That's bad. But yes, dusty means dusty to other people. It means just walking around with dusty foot and no shoes and all that stuff. Some people, Zenobia.
Oh well.
No. But what happened to the good old wholesome Black American women, Zenobia? What happened to them? The women from the 30s and all that kind of stuff. What happened to those? You know,
Social
because
media.
those ones seem like marriage material and all that stuff.
Yeah,
You see,
and what Rafael
I
was
wanna
saying.
marry a Black American woman. I wanna marry, you know,
Yeah,
but this Christian and all this stuff, it just doesn't convince me. I wanna marry a Black
yeah.
American woman.
It's very material in Atlanta. I mean, not Atlanta, but Atlanta too. But in America, it's very materialistic. So it's unfortunate that people minds material things. It's a lot of good Black African American women out here. There are, but it seemed like social media. They're trying to keep up with the Joneses, and and that material stuff. But there's communities like in Atlanta. There are a lot of conscious people in Atlanta. There are a lot of
Okay, they changed it. There's some changes there.
it's a lot of conscious women in Atlanta. So they're here. I'm one of them.
There's nothing like a wholesome Black American woman that can
Yeah.
make you some sweet potato pie and some sweet potato salad. Make you some good potato salad and all that stuff. If you find a Black
Yeah.
American woman, those are the kind of women they is. You don't find
Yeah.
them these days.
Yeah, it depends. Yeah, like the 20s. Once they get, they're still immature a little bit. Once they get like maybe 35, they start to slow down and take life more seriously. But it's a lot. The social media's got the women in the 20s. It's hard to find it's few. Like you go to colleges, different universities, they're different. They're not. They're into the social media, but they're still a little bit more grounded. Like because they come from families when a lot of university kids that taught them some things that good values and character and stuff, and I can't and even if they didn't go to college, they're in a poor community, you still get even though they may not have the money or whatever, but they still got technology, but there's still it's a lot of good people. It's still a lot of good people that's poor too.
But you see
there is
how some people who could be alienated from their own culture could be so critical of it looking from the outside as well, because they are not inside enough, or they haven't spent enough time inside to really inculcate and understand how things are done and why things are the way they are.
Exactly.
Obviously there's dysfunction, but if you're kind of staying away, that stuff, or you grew up in a white area or something, you will definitely develop a very critical, because you can see and compare the two, unless you've been and had that experience. So that's why you have people like Rifleman will develop such a critical aspect for Black American.
That can work against us like that. He's trying to wake up. It seems like he's trying, but he still got a long way to go. But it's a lot of our people like that. The social media, the society have shaped their minds to make it okay. It's like,
but I wouldn't blame him. I wouldn't blame him, because there's certain aspects where you can actually lose your life and all that stuff in a kind of. But it's not all areas.
Yeah, but you get like society say, oh, watch out for that black on black crime. It's all in the words and the tongue. Watch out for black on black. They don't say white on white crime, but watch out for black on black crime. That's already, when you say black on black, that's already setting it up already. And then you got you got this social media and commercials and the news. So the news here in America is very biased and you got what's the word? Start with a P.
Bias and what do you call it?
PR, what's the word that they lie a lot, the news, I can't think of the word. propaganda, a whole bunch of propaganda, and it sets it up for us to fail. And the black people, like Rifleman, I hate to use Rifleman for an example, but they see this and they say, oh, you see how our people are doing. It's like, oh, they turn it around against themselves. Oh, you see, the news say, the shooting of the black man killing each other, and then the black man that's looking at the news, he's saying, you see how we do each other, we see how we kill each other. I'll never go into the black community. And then Lord, so it starts to play the game with them, turning the black man, he's a black man, against his own people.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is. And you'll be surprised.
They don't show the white on white crime. There's a lot of white on white crime here. It's a lot of white on white, but they don't show that.
It's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure to live under that kind of community. And if you're not careful, you could cave in and you completely become a maniac in a way or something.
Absolutely, against your own.
I've seen it. You look like a maniac and all that stuff. I remember when the George Floyd situation was happening, and it happened at the same time I was living with a white family in England or in the village, and they were trying to tell me, but it's the police, it's this and that. I say, listen, no, but the police, to be in the end, I say, you know what, I'm living on here. I can't be arguing, all that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? I'm lodging here, so I can't be arguing this and that. But I did not accept them. But some people living under such pressure in a culture they're not familiar with, they completely succumb to it.
That's
and it
right.
produces that thing. And there's also that thing where Africans who don't know any better or are not very assuming, they're not very assuming, they come to the US and say, oh, I'm gonna make white friends and all that kind of stuff.
Yes, because they think they're safer.
They think they're safer.
Yeah, they just don't show the news. They don't show that the media is very propaganda here in America. So they're going to protect their own. They show it a little bit, not much, because they know it's got to be a few of them, but they don't show all of it. They cover it up. They cover it up.
Yeah, and they go into the bushes and they end up getting killed and all that kind of stuff, right? They go into the woods. I'm going to the woods with my white friends.
Yes, they drown, accidental drowning and all that type stuff. But actually, they were killed and murdered. You
see what I'm saying, African millennial? You see where that play can get you? They just kind of trying to kiss up to another culture or something. It's not good, man.
Oh yeah, it happens. It happens. It happens when they're. Oh yeah, it happens. They die. They get killed. When they're out there with them, it's a lot of things that happen that's never talked about. But they push ours out there. Oh, they know exactly what they're doing.
You see, like I tell you, at the end of the day, right, black people need to go over that. Yes, but it does weigh in a lot on you as well. But you won't believe African millennial. When I was at university, a Nigerian guy came, straight African accent. It didn't take long. A few months later, he's got a fucking British accent. I don't know how he did that and all that stuff. And now he's got this white bitch running around with him.
I'm telling you. That's right. Let me tell you, there's so many on prescription drugs. It's crazy. It's so many. I'm not even talking about us. I'm talking about them. It's on prescription drugs, on meth. It's bad. It's bad. I'm not even talking about our people.
African millennial, I'll tell you, right? When I was at university, right, I actually hung around with a lot more black people and all that kind of stuff, right? I hung out with a lot. Yes, I had a few white people, but I hung out with all about black people, and we did very good. We dominated. We were the leading people in the class, African millennial. You understand why? Because we had determination and drive. And the black guys that hung out with the white guys got sidetracked and they failed. Do you understand what I'm saying, African millennial? You know why they failed? because they were too focused on impressing the white people and going to parties, doing exactly what white people do. You understand what I mean? Going to parties, taking the same type of drugs, doing this and experimenting. They fucking failed the university.
That's
You
right.
see what happened? And these people spoke clearly like white people. They had that attitude. You know that British Ghanaian you're talking about. You know what I mean, African American. If you're
Yep.
not grounded and rooted in African culture, where your parents are keeping track of you and telling you, you gotta come back with A-stats, you gotta become a doctor, you gotta be good. If you're not grounded in your own culture, you get sidetracked with another culture. And those people
right.
have their own background, they have their own foundation. So you're having to leave your own foundation to kind of adapt this airy, non-substantial foundation and all that stuff. At the end of the day, you get led by the wind. And I saw it coming, African Millennium. I say, this guy he has the potential to be smart, but there's something going on with him here where he's not really focused. And obviously, he ended up failing because he followed all the white boys that take drugs and all that kind of stuff.
And they're gonna look after each other.
In a thing to assimilate.
That's right.
It's
Absolutely.
perfect, you know, so,
And failed in the end. That's right.
and failed in
Because
the
they're
end.
gonna
So,
look after each other. Okay? They're not gonna look after you.
you see what I'm saying? Yes, they're gonna. And all those white boys, they did very well in the end. They did well, and but the black guy, the black one failed. He was the one that was left behind.
That's
You
right.
see, and now he's working in I don't know. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
But I saw this coming. It's just because I grew up being very diligent of these type of things. Every relationship is about use and all that stuff. So it's really not about that. But
Well,
but
let me
yes, I
say,
do.
I'm sorry, but I'm not saying, okay, we can't speak for every person of a different race. You see what I'm saying? But what I'm saying is, when your mind, you're going to find yourself in trouble when you're, like you said about the guy in college, when your mind is like that, you're going to find trouble within that other race. And because every person is not a bad person from, you're going to find good people, genuine people from any race. But when your mind is not right, you're going to find trouble within another race.
Exactly. Now you said it.
Yeah.
When your mind is not right and you meet the wrong people with the wrong state of mind, you're
That's
gonna
right.
get yourself in trouble. So you
That's
do
right.
not cultivate to change yourself. You try to be with people that accept you for who you are and all that kind of stuff. You understand?
That's
So
right.
I don't think there's some bad white people. There's good white people everywhere. You know, like I go and see them all the time.
In every race of anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I never put myself in a relationship where I have to be a certain type of person to
That's
be
right.
acceptable. You
That's
understand?
right. That's
So
right. You're looking for
it's like
trouble.
that. Because you don't like. Let me tell you. Of course, they say imitation is the best flattery or something like that. But it only takes you to a certain level. You're just a caricature. You understand what I mean? So how much can you imitate somebody? I mean, come on. Are you living your authentic life if you're having to live your whole life imitating another person?
It's like, how can you live with yourself?
How can you live with yourself? You understand?
So our people, I just want our people to wake up.
I also try to get myself to understand how people find it so easy to just change some aspect of them, a very fundamental aspect of them, just change it completely to fit in. I don't understand that, African millennial. Maybe why do they do that? Why can some people easily just change a fundamental aspect of who they are to fit in?
I'm not too sure about that. Maybe they see it as if they're doing that, it's worth it for what they gain. So it's something they're willing to sacrifice. I'm not too sure though.
But I guess they just saying that. What do you what is it when you gain the whole world but lose a part of yourself? Well, that's saying, isn't it, and all that stuff. But I guess you gain something. I just think so many people put themselves under pressure unnecessarily, doing things that are unnecessary to try and fit in. You don't have to. There's other avenues. You understand what I mean? So I would like black people to refrain from that. But who am I to say? You understand what I mean? Who am I to say? I think in this world, people should just focus on Afriscope. If you got something to say, sorry, I've been talking too much. Afriscope.
Guys, I'm about to get off. I'm gonna go into the chat.
Yeah.
So
Oh, it's been nice talking to you, to Sunuvia. We would like you to come in all the time. You hear Rifleman talking smack about Black Americans again and put him in his place. Because that guy, I have stopped challenging him and all that. Tonight was challenging him the other day, and I was like, all right, this is funny. I said, because I know Rifleman and it's ilk already. He's a gun-touting Republican, not sure.
yeah, I know those type. So
Yeah. He's those types, right? Gun-touting. I got my guns and all that stuff. So it's funny to see that kind of character in a black man. So
yeah,
I'm just accepting him and all that stuff.
I
But
think he means well for the most part, but he got a lot of work to do on himself.
he's got a lot of work to do internally himself.
Yeah, he got a lot.
You know
Exactly.
what I mean? He's got a lot of reorientation in his brain.
Exactly. Yes.
Sometimes he comes out a bit maniacal. I would say.
Yeah. It's
You know what he needs? He needs a good Black American woman that can make it some sweet potato pie and a potato salad. If he's got that, and she's giving him some good, right? Rifleman will throw all that rubbish away. I'm telling you.
I believe you. Yes.
If he can find a wife or the cousins to give him all that good loving, Rifleman will
He'll be a changed man.
He change. He say, "What's all these beliefs I have in my head? What's all these beliefs I've inculcated?" You know.
Yes, he's not in Oregon anymore because it's not hardly any of us there.
Yeah.
Females, not a lot of us there. He need to come to Atlanta. He said he left. He need to come back.
Yeah, I don't feel Atlanta. Yeah, I don't know if he likes that. Yeah. But he's a funny one. He's a funny one. But anyways.
Yeah. Well, thank y'all so much for having me. Thank you, African Millennium, for having me on your panel.
No problem. Nice to see you.
Bye. I'm going to go into the chat. Bye.
Free School, how you doing, my friend, and all that stuff?
I'm fine. As Africans would love to say, I'm good.
I see. Afriscope is the most positive, happiest African I ever seen and all that. He's always smiling and all that stuff, isn't it? He's always smiling, always with positive energy. Afriscope. But Afriscope, it's good thing you're engaging with the diaspora like this. Because sometimes you do say some very salient things and all that stuff. I say it's a development and an improvement, and we will like that to continue and all that. You bridge the gap between Africans and the diaspora over here. You understand? So it helps the mindset grow and all that stuff. You understand? I mean, so African Millennial, I'm sorry for taking your show too much today and all that stuff. Yeah, I just thought I didn't actually have anything much to contribute. I just wanted to see as the conversation goes and all that stuff. But with these kind of things, you can kind of deviate into other things because so many things are so interconnected. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, definitely.
But at the end of the day, it culminates down to a feeling of inferiority. You know what I mean? That inferiority complex. And I think us Africans must pay attention to it. The first thing, it starts with changing your name and all that stuff. You can't be this great and your kids still running with another slave master. Yeah, come on, Africa. I thought about it yesterday. I said, hold on a second. Why should you be proud to hold the slave master's name? Why should one be proud to hold that? Africa, are you proud? African man, are you proud? Should you be proud to hold the colonizer's name? Like, isn't that warped? That's warped. It's like,
and some Africans have it even worse because some just have the first name, but some have the first and second name. The first and last name is not African at all. Oh no. And then that name gets passed down to their kids, right?
Yeah.
So then it's
and they're proud of it as well. They're proud of it. They take pride in the name.
Yes. They're proud. There's some that will tell you that they are one of their great grandfather is a white man.
Let me tell you that. it's a scary situation in the world, as in the way Africans. I don't know. Don't it we the way the Chinese are moving in the continent and all this, and I don't have the Chinese on a geopolitical level, but in terms of a demographic level, I do fear for Africa. Like, I feel like the Chinese could definitely change the demographics of Africa. You will be seeing some mixed Chinese. I think if we're not careful, one thing that will be left of the black man is our physical superiority, and that's what people will claim to have pride of black people. You know what I'm saying? They say, he has a black man, so he's got a big mandingo. He's a black man, so he's very tall and all that. He's a black man, so he's strong. So there's that kind of stuff. But if you're not careful, we could definitely be overrun by different races in the continent. You know what I mean? So, there should be a strong sense of black pride and all that. There's nothing wrong with African names. There's nothing wrong with our names and all that stuff. We just have to live in our own paradigm, because at the moment we're not living in it. So that's what it is. Etise?
Did you say Etise?
Etise? What does that mean?
That means, how are you?
All right.
Etise, like, how is it?
How is it? Okay.
Yeah, so how are
So
you?
are you
Yeah.
from the Brong? Are you from the Brong Ahafo region?
No, no, I'm not from there at all.
You're not from Brong Ahafo.
No, no.
So you're from Northern Ghana, I see. Are you Fulani then?
Wait, no, I'm not from Northern Ghana. From Eastern Ghana.
Oh, Eastern Ghana. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so
But
you must. Yeah.
but yeah, I'm like I'm Akan
Okay,
and
you're
basically Ga.
Yeah. I see. What do you think about this Akufo-Addo and this devaluation of the Ghanaian currency? What's happening in Ghana? Well, how does he feel now?
Actually, I think
He's a
Afroscope will
great
be
example.
better.
Sorry. He's
I think
actually a great
Afroscope will be
example.
a better source on that. From what I heard, their currency went back up.
Oh, is it?
Not fully, but that's what I heard. But another thing I heard from another source is Akufo-Addo's he's losing ratings. Like, people don't really like him that much.
Yes, of course. Of course, because he's just been doing the talk with these. You see what I'm saying, African millennial? At the end of the day, when it comes down to it, people care about what you can really do, not about how posh you speak and the greatest speech you can give with the most eloquent British accent. You understand? At the end of the day, it's even more ugly when you can just pretend to be something else. You know what I mean? So Akufo-Addo, yeah, he was a very eloquent guy and all that stuff. But what is his source? You know what I mean? The source was not good, so people are angry and all that stuff. He fought kissing up to the West, man. But I really liked him, and he seemed to like that kind of leaders that are developing, very Pan-African. But maybe he was just playing show or something like that, pandering, beating the Pan-Africanists down. But who knows? Who knows? But you see what the white people do. You can kiss up to them as much as you like. But
People normally say that like when people grow old, or the more older people get, the more younger they get. I'm starting to think that this is how African leaders, that's how they tend to be. Like, most of the time, we think that the older they get, they will be better, but then they become like children. They say things that they are not supposed to say, or at later stages. Like, look at Akufo-Addo, knowing Ghana as one of the pivotal countries here in West Africa, and then you get to the stage where there are all these people in their cults, and I'm not gonna mention race or anything, but and then you start talking about, we don't need you, we want to be our own. You don't have to tell them your plans. Like 101, you don't have to tell them. They don't need to know. You just do your thing. Just do your thing. Let them always keep getting.
He was kind of saying everything and all that kind of stuff. So I tend to feel like he was African millennial. Akufo-Addo is a great example of the type of Ghanaian you're talking about. Am I wrong?
Absolutely.
He's a great
And
example.
Darth, you didn't hear this from me, but Akufo-Addo, like, his name is Nana Akufo-Addo Dankwa Addo, but the Dankwa part, Dankwa was one of the people who went against Dr. Kwame Nkrumah.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
I
So he's literally a descendant of someone who
was
went against the
anti-Pan-African.
best president of the country.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
You see, these people underestimate Pan-Africanism, right? You look at Pan-Africanism in a way and say, Pan-Africanism, they don't do this, they don't do that. But these white people, are using Pan-Africanism as a way to kind of win back Africans and get the other. So they put Pan-Africanist banners. They use the banner of Pan-Africanism to kind of try and gain benefit from that. So Pan-African is not just some kind of YouTube thing or something like that. It's a movement and all that stuff. So white people are smart enough to realize and use it to their own advantage. But black people, we are not. We're actually beaten down. So I do know that that history of Akufo-Addo, that he went to look, man. He went to a private school in the UK, right? He's educated private, so of course he knows how to speak that posh language and all that kind of stuff. So obviously now he's made it in his life where he's become a president of a country. Maybe we'll say a governor of Ghana, the prime minister of Ghana, because prime minister, when not president, prime minister is the reason God still connected with the crown. You know what I mean? So he's the de facto British governor, prime minister of Ghana, and all that kind of stuff. So he's even building a cathedral. Building a cathedral. You see this? He's building a cathedral. Who are you building the cathedral for? It's like that stupid cathedral in Ivory Coast that they build and all that stuff, and it's not being used and all that stuff. Ghanaian people are suffering, and you're building a cathedral and all that stuff. You know what I mean? But people, like, look, people keep saying Ghana is good, like, especially that fucking white guy recently went down and showed really horrible pictures of Ghana. You know what I mean? Like, really, really poor parts of Ghana. And I seen that and all that, and I was like, I was surprised. So Ghana is not all that. Ghana is not all developed. It's better than Gambia now to a certain extent. I don't know even if it's better. I don't even know. There's rich and poor parts. So that white guy really showed some horrible parts. And this Akufo-Addo,
tell you, one of the things that I always say is that we are Africans, and wherever you go, you see the same situation. No matter, even when you go to South Africa, they see South Africa. They showed some places in South Africa. I was like, damn, this is a real ghetto.
Yeah.
So I'm like, where the real people, the owners of the land live. So for some time now, I just accepted the fact that I will always see a similarity everywhere I go. When I go to Togo, when I go to Nigeria, it's always I'm going to be seeing similarities, and it's just fact.
Yeah. But yeah, Africa millennial, there's people like I've met them. Africa millennial, there's a lot of them in the UK. Trust me, I've met them. You don't get me? Those George wig wearers type of black, they really try to put on a huge character. Like in the UK, I think I went to this when there's a Nigerian guy. He combed his hair in this type of way, like in the 60s. It's like 60s hairstyle, and he wears it. Immediately I could tell what character I was dealing with. I'm educated in this, I'm educated in private school, and I went to this, Imperial London, but I say, shut up, yeah, man, you don't know shit. You know what I mean? So in any ways, you know what I mean? So that's why I can see similar characters in different type of people. You know what I mean? Like even my old good friend Dr. Kizo as well. When I first went, I think he had that pomposity going on. I'm sorry, he had it going on, and he said he's kind of toned it down. But he had the pomposity going on to the extreme level, But this is what these people do. They go to these private schools and all that stuff. Does it result in good? Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. Who knows? These are private school educated people. You understand? So, yeah, and you will find them. And when you put them into the real world and all that stuff, you find they don't function. Why? Because they lived in a cocoon. They lived in a cocoon and a shell and all that kind of stuff, where they were not in touch with reality. You know what I mean? They're not raised in the streets. So you put them in a real game and all that stuff, and then they think they can push forward their ideas, and then they end up messing everything up, like Akufo-Addo.
Yeah, the private school
Yeah,
raised people.
You know what I mean? So it's not a be all and all and all that stuff. It's you know, yes, of course, it will be good to do that, but it will be good to have your kid have a good education and all that kind of stuff. But having a good education is not synonymous with just being white and all that stuff. It's just a case of class. That's all. It's just a case of class. It's not a white thing. It's a class thing. But of course, white people are in the upper class most of the time. But it's not white. It's just a class thing.
Yeah, true.
Can't believe I will ever be making that argument. But anyways, that's what it is. But anyways, African millennial, I will let you be. John Zola, you see, I don't hate African. Let me say, John Zola, you see, I don't hate African Americans. You know, you see, I told you I wanted to marry an African American woman. You know what I'm saying? So I don't hate them. These people I really believe that I hate African Americans and all that stuff. I don't hate them. You know what I'm saying? I don't hate them because if you can find me an African American wife, I will take her. Don't find me no. I don't deal with the ratchets. You know, I deal with good women, wholesome women that make me sweet potato pie. Find me an African American wife.
Oh, yes. And he just saying he never thought you hated us, bro.
It's just reactionary. It's just
I think the reason why people think that is because your interactions with Nakmizi especially.
Yeah.
You know, you tend to be very harsh with Nakmizi, but then again, not to say anything bad about him, but
no, Nakmizi is harsh. Nakmizi, that guy, if he finds out any little bit about your people, he will rip them apart and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, Nakmizi is a bit he can bring out, you know, if you sleep with dogs and all that stuff, you will catch fleas. So if you sleep with dogs, you'll catch fleas and all that stuff. And I've kind of remove myself from the position of representing Pan-Africanism and all that. Well, I can still talk about it from a different angle and all that stuff. But Nakmizi, nah, that guy, man, that guy is something else, man. But and I still am done. I would still, when I cuss him, and I still am done. Anyway, that's millennial and all that stuff.
Anyways, yeah, girl. Did you have a closing statement? I guess after scope left, but cool.
Oh, I have to go. Zulu FBA goes and all that. But yeah, what thing I can say about this is I am very averse to fakeness. I'm very averse to people who put on an act, or put on an impression and all that stuff. I don't like it at all, you know. But if it's authentic, if your accent is authentic and that's how you are, then fine, and I understand the reasons. You know what I mean? I don't think you need to change yourself to a certain extent too much. I think if you focus on just trying to change yourself to appear a certain way, you're having the wrong priorities and all that stuff. You should focus on what you can do in this life. You should focus on what you can do for other people. It's not about white people. What you can do for your other brother, for your other man. That is what's gonna define where you are in life, not the kind of aesthetic you wear. Because eventually people will see through it. You understand?
Yeah, I definitely understand.
That's what I think about this topic, man. But I'll let you be. Welcome back, African Millennial. Hopefully this thing can go and all that stuff. Have you heard of what the plan is to discuss what kind of thing to do or something? Are you in for that? Are you in for building an empire or something? A media thing or something?
What plan?
Oh, right. So the Kifaru wants to build a Pan-Africanist alliance and build a media conglomerate or something, so that we can have more targeted conversations about how to change and control the political atmosphere, something like that. Some you know what I'm saying? Some Pan-African stuff or something. They will fill you in on it. They will fill you in, Kifaru and Keizo or something.
Oh, okay.
If there's gonna be such action. Maybe I should make my own channel myself. I don't know.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Nah, I don't go that time. I think for me, if Tunaja can give me his channel and all that kind of stuff, but then there was to stop me from doing my own channel. What's really stopping me? I bet I can do a lot of damage here and all that stuff. I can do a whole lot of damage and all that
But
stuff.
you don't think you have time to even stream, let's say, twice a month?
I guess I could, because I don't really need it, but maybe I will start doing it and all that. Maybe I'll start a channel, but yeah,
Yeah,
we'll see.
you know it's the safe thing to do, warm up to it. So what you can even do is you can ask anybody and then
Yeah.
they can let you use their channel for a while, and then once you're comfortable you can just open your own. Like you can do
Yeah,
that too.
because because there's just some things, some topics that have not been covered that can be covered and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I might be interested. I might look forward into that. But with this kind of thing, you can be tracked and traced where you're coming from. Let me get when I get my computers ready and all that stuff, I will see. I really hide my location entirely where I come from and all that stuff. So but
Yeah.
anyways, African Millennial, I'll let you be, man. Welcome back and all that stuff, So of course, YouTube is not your primary source of income. Of course, we understand that, but it's good to have you back on these waves and that. And
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for calling in.
cheers.
Okay, guys. So, I think maybe I'll change my schedule to Wednesdays, and I'll probably take a break from YouTube. Maybe 2 or 3 months. I'll take a break again. But anyways, yeah, I'm back. I see nothing has really changed on these YouTube streets. Interesting, but it's nice to see everybody again. Shout outs to everybody who was here earlier and everyone who I can see: Zulia, Sinovia, Iriru Boy, Zulu, Stoic One, Stoic One, and Ja, Solomon. I feel weird calling you Solomon. I don't care. I'm just gonna call you. I'd rather call you globalist or maroon. I cannot call you Solomon. And Iruboy had such a cheeky comment. Iruboy's mean, man. But anyways, yeah. So congratulations to Kaizo, by the way, for finally getting monetized. Congratulations. Shout outs to you. Um, I'll probably have to talk to Kaizo about something though. Because this is the thing. In as much as Kaizo's awesome, he needs to be very careful especially now that he's monetized. He needs to be a bit more careful, but it is what it is. He can just start another channel in case anything happens. Yeah, so I'll be back live next Wednesday. I think the topic should be something along these lines. Are Africans in the West really Africans anymore? And I'll just reiterate, I think ethnically they'll always be Africans, but culturally there's just a lot of Africans that I don't really feel they're African anymore. And Afroscope raised up on a good point. How can you live somewhere 20, 30 years and still keep your traditions of back home? Like, they're altered. You know what I mean? They're altered. That's just the facts. Okay, I'll give you an example. There's a dish in Ghana that some of them eat. It's called wache, right? Traditionally, you're not supposed to eat it with a spoon and fork. But over here, if you're eating, you're not gonna eat with your hands unless you're eating something like fufu or plantain. You're not gonna eat rice with your hands, essentially, right? That's already you conforming to someone else's culture, like already in itself. It's so subtle, but you're already doing that. So I think maybe Africans just have to be more conscious of more conscious of the things that they adopt and the things that they reject. And to the African parents, I think African parents, generally speaking, are doing a horrible job making sure that their kids know their culture. Um, it kind of goes with what Darth said, is that um, thinking someone else's culture is better, or is that you wanting to conform to someone's culture? Because I asked somebody, why do you not teach your kids your language, right? Why do you not teach your kids their language from back home? And they said, oh, we don't want our kids, when they speak English, we don't want them to have an accent. Like, we don't want them to have an African accent, which is why we're not teaching them our language. I feel like that's so disappointing. Let's say your kids grow up and they have another love for Africa, right? They decide that they want to visit their family back home. I don't know. They want to have a vacation. I don't know. They want to take a sabbatical back in your country. Then it's like they have to start from scratch because they don't know the language when their parents knew. I feel like that's so dishonest, and it's irresponsible. I really do. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not trying to pick on anyone's parents, but I think that's one little thing Africans can do better, to be honest. And yeah, that's all I have to say. Thanks, Stoic One. Stoic One, we haven't seen. Stoic One, I mostly saw you on Mr. Uganda's channel. Now, with the whole Mr. Uganda thing, I might have to actually message Mr. Uganda, because I don't know. He just needs to come back. But yes, that's it. That's it, guys. Thanks once again for being here. And I'll see you guys next Wednesday, probably same time. Have a wonderful day, guys. Bye.